This is the test I'm passing out tonight. See how much people know.
I have to do it right now and give it back to her, or can I use a cheat sheet?
I got the cheat sheet here with all the answers.
Jack is at least for 3 months, or was it at least for 12 and they were here for 3?
What is this?
How are you?
Lee's on the phone.
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So,
What is that?
Jack and Debbie, I emailed photos of them.
Oh, you
and
looked at
they
it. Yeah, I
said
looked at
that
that stuff.
it's the same tenants that have been there. There was a lease on file that ended in December, and they've extended that same lease for the same tenants.
Okay.
You interviewed, I'm sorry, you emailed the owners?
Now,
Do they know that more than Mary's living there? They may not know.
I don't know. So I'm just, we can discuss it later.
Now the question is there
Does he know that more than one person's living there?
I don't know. Just want to let you know that I asked and I got an answer, and I'll follow up.
It's a boarding house.
Okay, Mary is the one leasing it. And I don't know if
It's a
you
boarding
leased
house.
the home from Mary or not, but
I can
Mary
do
is
this
subletting the
too.
rooms.
You can take that test.
That one house
Perfect.
over there
I mean, I
on
can
campus,
just
that
call
big
Troy,
one.
but I didn't
Sure.
just
Disney,
call.
Disney had some of those
I
Imagineers
can call
lived in
Troy,
there.
no, but I didn't want to call.
Eric, just so you know, we're
All right,
voting now.
so guys, it's 5:31. Let's go ahead and get the workshop going here. Good evening, everyone. It's 5:31 p.m. This is the Celebration Residential Owners Association Board of Directors Workshop. It's Monday, July 20th. We'll open this evening with owners' comment. And since this is a workshop format, feel free to call out from the crowd. No comment? All righty. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. This isn't a formal meeting, so you all see the agenda in front of you. So we'll just go ahead and start with the design guidelines.
Okay, so tonight for preliminary review are 4 revised design guidelines. One is landscape lighting. Another is security devices, which is lights and cameras. There's also fences and walls, and then there's a new one that has been drafted called structure attached artwork and hanging decor. This has to do with items on the front porch.
And real quick, before we get into it too far, I wanted to, for the sake of our audience and for the camera, I want to introduce Susanna real quick. Susanna McLeod is the Community Standards Manager for CCMC, and she oversees all of our ARC and covenants. So thank you, Susanna. And then Rachel Benesh is here also. She's sitting back here. Rachel is our new Cindy. She is the office manager here, and she's been here 2 weeks now. Yeah, so we're really glad to have Rachel here.
Okay, so at least 3 of them were revised based on the board directive a couple years ago to take a look at all our guidelines because they were originally written 2009, 2010. Those versions were based on the pattern book, Celebration Pattern Book by TCC. We kind of, at the time, the ARC coordinator took the information that we have from the pattern book and patterns in the community and wrote them. So obviously it's been 4 to 5 years, and so a relook was needed to kind of make updates. We try to stick to the pattern book as much as possible, but obviously there comes circumstances in the neighborhood that they weren't detailed in the guidelines, and questions come up in situations, and we learn over time, kind of situations that don't work. And we work with that, and we try to put those in the guidelines to kind of help the community just look as best as it can always and address any kind of architectural questions that people may have. So we've done a series, but in this particular grouping right now, we have these 3 that you're looking at. And then as a result of some covenants issues, the board asked us last year to do a draft of the structure attached artwork guideline. So does anybody have any questions? Or?
Yes. Well, do you guys mind if we do this? There's 4 of them all together, and as Susanna had mentioned, we did go through ARC. We've got all their feedback. We've done the changes, so you'll see the highlighted. Anything new, anything striked out would be stuff that's being suggested to remove. So I think the outcome, what we're looking for here is after this meeting, if we get consensus, we'd like to post these for the 30-day timeline that we need to, and then bring them back for board approval at a regular board agenda item. I know Jack has some specific questions on structured attached artwork, and we're going to definitely get to all of them, but if it's okay, can we go down in order, or do you want to start from the bottom and move our way back up?
Go on, or however you want to go.
We're going to go through each one, or
Yes, just if there's questions, comments.
or are you also going to tell us any kind of burn issues that other people brought up? You can kind of give us some feedback that you've heard.
Yeah, and Susanna will share some of the conversations that took
Yeah.
place during the ARC
Yep.
meeting. So, Jack, are you okay if we start with fence and walls, and then we'll get our way down? Well, it's the biggest one, so I figured we'd do that one first, and then we'll get done.
Okay, well, unless you have a specific question about a certain item, fences and walls was basically revised, taking a look at people are doing fences, you know, it's a big thing nowadays, especially vinyl. You know, you get privacy, you have picket. So it's ironing out the little details that have come up over the years. Some of the things, of course, is double fencing. A lot of owners, you know, they have a fence on their property, but then comes a new owner and they kind of want one. And that's one of the things that we kind of avoid in celebrations. You know, we like a clean look. There's also, as far as gates, this one's kind of been debated. Gates across driveways, basically they're permitted for manor and estate lots only, not a lot of the smaller ones.
We have approved them for other ones in the past, or is that Disney approved it? Because I know there are others that do have some.
Our guys have approved it.
Yeah, there has been one, but re-looking at that and how it is visually from the street
Sure.
and how gates, you know, you kind of, it's more something that would be across a larger lot and, you know, that extension of the gate going across. It's important to note that when people do install fences that you have to grant your neighbors access, because there's so many situations in celebration where there's a zero lot line, and so their houses are right up against the lot. So if you put a fence across, you basically cut them off from that part of their home. And so to make that note, you know, they should always allow owners access. There's usually a fence going, you know, to and from the front or back. Not typically between properties. If there's a fence going between two properties, you wouldn't have a gate going there, because that's basically granting someone access to come over into your property without permission. There was also some clarifications as far as setbacks and just kind of tightening those up, and the styles. We still have in the setbacks, which has been there a while, that in the rear alley, you have to be 5 feet always from the rear property line. And a lot of people get that confused and think that's the edge of the alley pavement, when it's really not. It's actually about 4 feet from there. And then you have to do...
Could you say that slower again? So
Yeah.
the rule is how many feet from where to where?
5 feet from the rear property line
From the rear property line
Yes.
to
where you can start your fence. In other words, you have to...
Basically, it's
CDD.
it's 9 feet. If you,
Generally.
from the okay.
Yeah, that's
Is-
it.
I'm just thinking my own
CDD
fence is
property.
probably an issue.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm thinking mine is too, and I haven't
Yeah,
installed it. But we
I'm just
have
wondering that
to-
if we're kind of
Okay.
creating something,
Is there
I mean, how many we're
grandfather
talking about, because,
Well, and here's the thing,
Yeah.
with any situation, you're going to go across the community and you're going to find exceptions. You always are going to, because again, the guidelines weren't written until 2009, 2010, so you're going to find those situations where that wasn't done.
Because of
The
utility
guidelines
lines.
were written to kind of cement those things, so homeowners had a reference material that they could go look, not those pattern books that were given to people when they first bought their homes back then. Now we
Yeah,
have something
talking
you can
front feet
paper,
from-
you can pick up from
from the
town
asphalt
hall, you can
in.
look online, you can read it, it gives you step-by-steps. So there's going to be the situations where it's not. Now, if it's a new fence that's been installed since the last one was written in 2009 and it doesn't adhere to the guidelines, that would come across the covenants.
I think
If you
some
feel like
questions-
something wasn't done right, you can just come
I
see
think
me.
there's some questions in regards to some setback
Yeah.
limitations.
Yeah,
You're talking 5 foot from,
the rear property line,
okay, you have the alley behind the property and it's paved.
yes.
Are you talking about 5 foot from where the alley goes that way? Because you're actually going up to the alley. Even though the CDD, the CDD has easements on each side of there by, I believe, 3 or 4 foot out. I can't remember the exact amount. I'm pulling this up from 18 plus years ago.
Right, you're correct.
No, you're
But
correct.
there's easy, but there's
Just
a
5 feet plus the
utility line.
easement.
right
No,
there.
it's
I think
not 5 feet
Runs
was the
along
easy
that.
question.
But it's
What use of the property, not CDD.
Right.
It's not like.
Have to allow that from the property
When
line,
I
so it's
put a
about
fence in,
9
I know exactly what it is.
Right, not like the-
There was actually electrical
So it's
lines.
like 5 feet
I wasn't
from the
touching that,
alley
digging
in.
holes.
So my thing is, when I built my
My
house.
alley isn't.
But you said you're okay if you're before 2000.
No, I know, but I'm just pretending I'm like, an owner. And I built my house and I try to maximize my lawn, right? I wanted my fence to go as far as I could. 5 feet from the alley seems like you're making my yard
Yeah, they could have.
smaller, right? I mean, it seems like, so what I would say is, how did we get 5 feet and kind of why? Because I would be like, because every foot to me to put an extra pool to have my kids play, whatever it is, because I have to put a fence. I mean, I didn't have to put a fence. I did put a fence, but I literally tried to put the fence as long as I could. And Disney's, the builder did it, obviously.
Right.
And Disney, I had to actually, Mark Jones, do my whole design so I can get it in so I wouldn't have to come to CROA at some point.
It is my understanding
the
that
back door, that's what you did.
those actual setbacks are per the pattern book.
Yeah.
And the reason being was that Celebration was set up to be an open community
We were
where,
supposed to have a lot of fences.
yeah, well, and also, it wasn't like sometimes maybe when I was growing up where you weren't supposed to go down the alley. That was a dark, dangerous place. And Celebration, it's a place where residents come together. You reach across, you say hi to your neighbor. Kids are putting their, riding their bicycles down there. It's more open. It's friendly. So the idea was that if you're going to have a fence really close to that alley, that there's lattice so that it's open. You're not wondering what's going on behind there. They're not wondering what's going on behind there.
Sure.
And then the further you go in, the more solid it can be because you're still creating that open space. It is my understanding that their property line ends at a certain point, and then there's the easement for the CDD owns. That feed is
That's why I was
still,
trying to
but you can't
clear
build
up
on it.
exactly where you were trying to
Well,
measure from in your.
we need to be specific because
Can I just say one thing? None of this has changed.
Right.
This is something that was adopted in 2009, which reflected the pattern book. None of these distances have changed whatsoever.
Right.
And the only thing that has changed is the word shall.
Right. Well, I was leading.
As far as
A
having,
lot of people were getting it when they put our fences up.
Yes.
And
I can tell you that's true, but the basic, if you look at the pattern book, it shows you that the easement is not owned by CDD. The front area from the side, the
Right.
inside of your sidewalk to the street is owned by CDD.
But not the alley.
So 5
So it's
feet
not
from
9 feet from the alley.
No, it's 5 feet from the
Okay.
alley is all you have to do. And all it's saying is that you shall have a 4-foot-high solid fence with a 2-foot-high lattice at that point. Further in, then you can have a 1-foot lattice. Further in, then you can have a solid
I remember
fence.
that part. Yeah.
That's all this is saying.
Wait, it says you shall have a
Yeah,
solid
That's
fence?
the
I don't-
change.
Here, turn it
If
over
it's
to
solid,
page
you can't be
4.
higher than a certain
It's all
amount.
highlighted.
If it's not solid, you can be higher.
But I think every individual needs to be careful and look at their survey, because your survey is what you have to use with the county and with the HOA as far as installing your fence or anything else on your property. So if your house is here, then you should measure from the house. I have learned from experience that there is an amount of space between the end of your property and the alley pavement. There is some area there that you don't own. So whether it's 4 feet or 2 feet or 1 feet, you
Just by your
don't
survey.
typically own right
Yeah,
up
the
to
survey
the
goes-
pavement. You need to look at your survey and kind of see where that
An example
works
of
out.
point, we had a survey, Winter was in that area, but we had a survey, we were supposed to have a light in the alley. It took us 18 years to get that light installed because they mowed it over when they were moving a tree. But we originally got the survey out, they went, oh, there is supposed to be a light, and we got it in. So you have to go back to the original surveys. But one thing I would want to suggest on this is if you sell your home and your fence was installed before 2007 or whatever the guidelines changed, 2009, that the new owner doesn't have to rip out your fence and install it. It would go with the
No.
original owner.
Yes,
Okay.
we don't
And
make
that's
any,
normal, right?
yeah, we don't make anyone change something that's been there before the
Okay.
guidelines.
So the
are
grandfather
Right,
stays
before the
with the-
guidelines, but if they just did it without going through the approval
Okay.
process, then it would be on.
Eileen, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I have actually a comment. I mean, Susanna walked me through my fence about a year ago, and it was a somewhat difficult property, and I think there was an additional utility easement, and you had to walk me through and break the bad news that it was going to be the size of a postage stamp. What was interesting about it, because I did in fact have to do basically almost the 9 foot and measure out almost 9 feet, but like Eric, you have a fence, right? If you look down from my fence to your fence, they're all in a row. And so there must have been some reason why, it makes a very nice look. My house is set further back, but the fences now come out in exactly the same place. So you know, once you put it up, it actually looks good.
Yeah, and it creates a nice streetscape when you look
Yeah.
down the alley. You're like, this is a nice
Where
place
by
to be.
sticking out,
Yeah.
it would look
And leading up to that, before we didn't have a specific style for side yard fences, and now it could be solid, but side yard fences were, you could be allowed to put them 2 feet from the edge of sidewalk. And so without any specification, now it says 4-foot solid, 2-foot lattice. And that's because, you know, when you're going down the street, it's visually, you know, nicer to have a lattice fence than that wall of white vinyl that you can have, you know, when you're walking down the street.
Question.
Necessarily.
So the way I read this, and just tell me if I'm wrong, it says minimum setback 5 feet. We're talking about the rear yard. We're not talking about a type of fence. It says, we jump to the word, the first shall, which is in yellow. It says, if fence setback 5 feet, the lower shall be solid with up to 2 feet. Why does it have to be solid? There's different, I have a black wrought iron fence. I don't have a solid fence.
Yeah.
So what it's telling me is, I shall, but I don't want that. So this says I can't have that.
You know what it was originally, it was to preclude people from having a solid fence
Yes.
that close.
Yes.
So maybe it's written
It says
improperly.
shall, right.
Yeah, maybe it's written improperly because it is the object was not to have a solid fence so close to the.
No, I get it. No, I totally understand.
It was
what
about
what the intention is.
opaqueness.
What I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
so
the way
maybe
it's
you
written
can
in
read right.
is, because we're only talking, right now we talked about vinyl fences, but if you don't want a vinyl fence, you have other fences to choose from, and it's telling me I can't choose it, is what it's telling me.
I gotcha.
And it
That's
says
a
it
good
in
point.
lot of
I
other
think it's
places.
stacking things in the direction of not choosing. 'cause
No,
it's
I know what
saying-
you're, I know what the intent is,
Right.
but yeah.
It
But I think
says, in
needs
other
to be
words,
writ-
it
needs to be
doesn't,
written
It
differently.
doesn't,
It doesn't
mean you
apply.
can't, absolutely. I think it just kind
No,
of.
no, it says shall. So the way it's written,
A strong
absolutely
assertion or
means
intention.
I cannot.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the way
It's a very strong
But
assertion.
that's the legal term.
Yes.
That means I cannot choose any of it.
But you make a good
That's
point
not
that it
right.
doesn't reference black aluminum fences.
doesn't,
And
right.
the whole topic actually is about opaqueness. How much can you see through the fence, like Jack said? So when you have a black aluminum, they're usually spaced apart about 3 inches. You
Exactly.
don't have that issue, so it doesn't even come
But
up.
we need to mention
Okay.
it, right.
I will-
think
I will
it's-
put it in
and
there.
it probably, and it's probably in other areas too, but that's, you're right, I know what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Suzanne, I have a question with my fence also. Are we making a stand on the color of the hardware?
On-
Because I had asked, you know, black, white.
That's a good question. I
You
don't.
know, I was sort of.
I don't have an
This addresses it
answer.
all.
I don't have anything in here that addresses hardware and what color. And I have seen various ones in Celebration. I will.
There was
The black
black,
stands
I
out.
asked- I hadn't specified it, then I came back and I said, can I do black? And he said, I have to do the whole process again, so I stayed with white, and then of course they sent black. So, you know, but, you know, it's confusing because there is black out there and there is
Yep.
white
Are
out
we
there.
talking PVC fence or what?
I'm
No,
talking
no,
about
hardware,
your
like your
PVC fence.
latch or your.
Like
Oh, the
black
latch
hardware on a
itself. Okay, I
white
thought you were
fence.
talking about the fence
Yeah,
itself.
fence,
I was like, I'd hate to see a black fence,
But,
yeah.
I mean, you sort of implied at the time that whoever was on the art committee wasn't really crazy about, that's the way I read it.
Yeah.
Didn't like black, and that it might or might not, and I just didn't want to.
It sounds like it sticks out, like if you had a black hardware.
It
actually
does.
sticks out, which is not what the fence should do.
But
It
you see
should
all these
blend
others,
in.
so if you're
Yeah.
really gonna eliminate it, then you, I think
Yeah.
you might have to.
Well, again, you know, it's a tough answer for residents, and I always lament that it has to be said. People say, well, that's down the road, or I've seen that before in Celebration. You said, I know, you know, that's true. And that's why over time we've written the guidelines, because those things weren't answered in the pattern book. And so there becomes a consistency question, right? Why do some people get it and why do some people know?
It's like my next door neighbor just put in the fence and got to put in the black stuff. So-
Did he? Could you give me that address, please? So, no, and you know, anytime. Anytime you have a question about something in the guideline or whether something was done correctly, you can always reach out to community standards and we'll look up the approval, see if it was done correctly. Sometimes we don't catch things, sometimes we're not there all the time, so, you know, it's something to be addressed. But I think that's a good point, and I'll mark it down.
Group of individuals, that's sort of rights or prejudices, one or the other. So, you know, it could be one, I could see why 1 year yes, 1 year no.
No, I don't recall that, but generally it should be a standard line in the guideline. That's the way it should be, right? So that everyone can follow it and there's a consistency. I agree. So So I had brought that up, and I'll bring it up to ARC and see what they say. What might have been done in the past was basically, you have a community-wide standard, which applies to what you see predominantly in the neighborhood. Is there a rule written down about it? No, but if that's the way the town generally looks, then we try to stick with that look. Do you know what I mean?
Susanna?
Suzanne, I'm sorry, where are we on that red one on the gates?
It's not in here.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
going
okay.
to bring it up.
One of the reasons I was going to just say 4 block is if it's white, it's obviously treated or spray painted, and it's going to chip and look badly, so I just think black is.
Sure, it might be
I would be
silver.
for black.
It might be just a gray
Silver.
metal.
Yeah, or gray metal, or something
As
other
opposed
than,
to black.
Well,
yeah.
keep in mind, most black hardware is actually painted.
Of course, yeah.
Well,
You're
whatever
right.
it is.
Right.
Okay.
It's powder
Whatever
coated
the
black.
everything's painted.
Just like it could be powder coated white.
Yeah, but whatever the metal is
No, I'm totally
would be,
good.
white doesn't matter. No metal's white, so I'm just saying whatever the metal is would be the preferred.
Okay, it's something to, I'll definitely bring it up to the ARC and see what they say.
Susanna,
Did
just
you
a
have a
point of
question?
clarification.
Yes.
If you have a current fence and you are going to be replacing it exactly the way it is, according to the new highlighting, you can do exactly where it is without having to adjust to the new guidelines. Is that how
Yes,
I'm
you
reading
can
it?
put the fence in exactly where it is at that point. However, you do have to follow the guideline as far as lattice.
Correct, but if you're replacing exactly the same fence with just a new one, it can be exactly what it is?
It could be in the same location. It may
But
not
it's
be able
still-
to
My
be the
fence gets
same
hit by
type
a
of
car,
fence.
and it's in violation of it as today. How do I fix my fence?
Then that's maintenance. You replace it.
Okay.
The question is, if you're going to make, if you decide, okay, I have wood, now I want to go straight to vinyl. You're
Gotcha.
applying for an exterior change. You can put that new vinyl fence in the same location that the wood one's been there for 10 years.
Okay.
But now you have to adhere to the guidelines,
So it
which
has
is
to- okay, so the
2
pre-
feet,
still- okay, got
1
it.
foot lattice, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, the one question I have, though, with regards to, especially in the end of the Longview, the way that the original fences were, there's like 6 inches between the sidewalk, and you're talking about the front fences.
Yeah, the
There's like
picket
6
ones.
inches, and I know that it's, if you go down that area, nothing grows.
Yeah, it's tough. That was revised as well.
Okay, that's what I-
And now it's 12 inches, because we've learned.
But what do
can't
you
grow
do
much in
about
6
those
inches.
houses that are right there that, I mean, right now, if you are replacing that wood exactly where it stands, even if you were to adjust it 6, then are adjust it to 12 inches, because that's what we were gonna do when we replaced ours. Then it looks silly, because you're the only one that's 12 feet and or 12 inches and everybody else is 6, so it throws everything off.
Right.
So what are we going to do with, right now, as it stands, that 6 inches, those houses are probably, what, 10 houses at least? And I know that, I think there's more than that. You still are requiring, ARC is still requiring that some plantings need to be there, even though it's only 6 inches.
Oh, well, okay, so
Wait, what are we doing? Which one are you talking
That's
about?
under
The
landscaping
plantings,
now.
the plantings.
Just
Yes,
to
under-
clarify,
it's under
for instance-
So something has
landscape,
to be in front
Landscape.
of a fence.
yeah, and to clarify, it's been moved from 6 inches to 12 inches for that very reason. But what you're saying is you have a line of fences on the street, now you start moving some back 6
You
inches.
can't.
What
It-
happens?
Well, it looks silly, and that's what,
I don't know. I
Well,
don't
we
know.
were going to.
But-
It looked at it, it looked really
But
silly.
it's at least 6 or at least 12, which means somebody could actually put it closer, right?
You can
Which
go
means
up
it
to-
doesn't have to line up. Somebody,
So let's look at the
Right.
guideline that she's
Yeah,
got in
I'm-
here.
I'm looking
It says
right here.
12 inches to 2
2
feet.
feet.
right, which means that it doesn't have to line
What's
up.
0 to 12 inches? Is there a requirement to the landscape in front of some 0 to 12 inches?
Yes, that's why it's set
It
back
says
from
right
the
there,
sidewalk.
landscaping
No,
is
it
required
doesn't.
in front of
It does
fence.
say-
No, it doesn't.
It says.
12 inches to 2 feet.
It just
So it
below
has
that,
to be
landscaping
It's on
is
the next
required in
page.
front of fence.
Right.
Refer to
Okay.
landscaping section.
Next.
Under setbacks from
But
the
it
front
doesn't
yard,
make sense.
Hang on.
You're dealing with 12 inches to 2 feet, so you naturally assume the flow is, everything is addressed in that area is going from 12 inches to 2 feet. I'm asking 0 to 12 inches. You understand what I'm saying? You're addressing one thing.
no.
Well,
Yeah, but if you take down the sentence, okay, this is talking about your front yard setback, right? And it's saying picket fences have to be at least
all right,
12
why
inches
did
from
you
the
put that in
sidewalk.
there then? Why is that floating sentence in there?
Which floating sentence are you
12
referring to?
inches to 2 feet from the front property line.
The picket fence.
Picket
That
fence
means
or
you
low
can
wall has
choose
to
to
be
put
12
it
inches.
12 inches, or you could choose to
What
put
if
it
it's
2
in
feet.
3 inches?
You can't put it 3
But
inches.
there are ones in North Village over there.
I know, that's why we're changing the guideline though. So going forward,
It would have to be 12.
you have to be 12, so you allow for people
But you're
to
telling
put
me that
landscaping.
if they're replacing the fence in kind, that they can put in the same place they had before.
That's because
They live there.
So
you
how
can't
do
take
we-
away people's, you know what I mean,
It's
property.
His grandfather.
I
Right.
understand what you're saying, but we complain about these people for not having landscaping in front of them.
We
which
get
is
letters every
impossible.
single year.
It's absolutely impossible to do. Okay, so why don't we fix this thing once and for all?
Well, okay, but the alternative would be to go to everybody that has a fence too close and say, now you have to spend the money and
No,
move
we're
your
just saying,
fences back.
can we just put mulch there, is all we're saying, rather than requiring us to put.
Not ask for plants.
Not ask for
Or
plants from
grass.
that, right, so, just something
me.
other than plantings there, that it still looks nice and clean, but we're having a realistic expectation of the owners in that particular area.
That would be a
Can I
board
ask
decision.
clarification? Are you
Absolutely.
saying though on those that are grandfathered that are already 6 inches are
They're already
below,
6 inches, right.
to require now that there's something go in there?
If they do.
They do.
It's
They-
for-
okay,
Right now, we
You're
get
saying-
Can we
letters.
do mulch instead?
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
want to have plants.
Right, rather than having plants, which
The
you
bubble
can't, you
sidewalk.
can't maintain, and nothing
Nothing grows
grows.
Right.
So in that particular area, can we just require mulch? So from, let's say, 0 to 12 inches, rather than requiring the landscaping is requiring in front of the fence, put in if less than 12 inches, it may be mulch, or maybe
Sod.
or
If
maybe
you,
something.
if you did something like that, I think it would have to be just for the ones that are already in that situation, or else you
yeah.
have everybody coming and putting
Right.
that 6 inches
And
saying, I
that's
don't
why
have
you need
enough
to write the
room.
exception in here. Don't
So-
make them illegal.
My question is that it states refer to the landscaping section below.
So go down
So I
to
turned to the landscaping section, and it states landscaping other than sod. We were just all talking about sod.
Right.
So I get that you can't put sod in front of the fence, but what defines landscaping?
It says underneath, annuals, planted 6 to 9 inches apart and changed appropriately. It says vines, and it says small hedge.
So mulch would not be appropriate.
It is not a landscape. It is
because
Not
it's
at this
not a
point.
landscape.
Not for the new ones, no.
Neither is sod. And the same thing, like you're talking about
Right.
vines. You ever try to clean the fence with vines?
Right.
You can't clean it, and they're green. So why would anybody want to pick vines?
People, some
like-
residents
yeah,
like it because
Well-
you do jasmine, it smells
Well,
good.
That's fine.
You know.
That's fine. They want to do it, that's fine. But then how about somebody like me or other people that don't want anything there but sod? You can cut it, it looks nice and neat, the dirt doesn't wash away, either does the mulch.
But apparently they are.
It stays in,
That doesn't, that's not covered.
well,
If you look at.
if ARC are assholes, that's what they are.
If you look at, pattern
don't
books,
care
they
anymore.
talk about landscaping in front of fences, some of the renderings in there. Well, that's a decision. If you feel like that is something that you want to change, then
Well, maybe
you
we
can
should,
direct us.
maybe as we've gone through this, that's a thing that we bring up, maybe bring that back to the ARC and say that's a concern that the board brought
We-
up.
you know how many times
And
we-
let them come back and say, yeah, we agree, no, we don't, and then see what we say. Because they may actually just say, yeah.
We've been
those
fighting this-
houses, we've gone through it for years.
Fighting this for
Maybe
6
not
years
like
already.
this.
But
6
David,
years of
if-
fighting this thing and it still haven't gotten a
If
plan.
I'm
But we'd like to
correcting-
ask them to maybe look
I
at
think
that.
it's a good point. I mean, we have to remember the ARC are volunteers also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're giving their time
Right.
to try and do the right thing for this community. So I think it's a good question for us to bring back.
Yeah,
to
we
the
need
board.
logic
I
too
think it's a
already.
valid question because I don't think any of the ARC members live over in Longview. So they're not familiar exactly with what's going
Well,
on.
it's just,
I
you know,
just
I
wanna
wanna
go
do a little
further
tour,
down
a little
here.
nub tour with some of those areas, but, and another thing, since we've been in the same home 18 years, we have now reached the point where the trees have canopied, and where we are supposed to have plants and required to have the percentage on certain plants, they're not growing. So
Because
we're in a
of shade.
situation now where we're in we replace them, and like, there's only so much you can do.
I think that's
So
one of
I
those
think
things.
there's some other areas that have to be looked at.
I want to go back to you, Dave, in a minute, but I think that is something that I'd like to be able to supply to residents on the front porch is, in the website, is basically plants that do better in shade, that can tolerate shade, plants that can tolerate a lot of water, right? Because we
We've
have
tried
those
the plants that do better in
challenges
shade.
everywhere.
Nothing, it is so
Right.
dark and so.
Oh, so
covered.
you've tried plants that are specific to shade and
Oh,
they
yes.
still don't work?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
now we're at the ground covering. but I know we should have more of and the bushes just keep dying and dying, and we keep replacing them. And Davy has been doing it, and they know what they're doing, and they're at the point where they're like,
Well, I think, every situation is different, and if you have I know that there's some homes where the easement is so full of roots from the street trees that you can't plant ground cover in there, and we understand, that's the way it has to be.
The only thing, sod has the best shot, but you gotta remember one thing, I had the problem with the tree also, which I still do, but what I did was, I thinned it out myself. I raised it up because according to the CDD, it's my tree anyhow. Okay, if it's my tree, then I'm going to trim it myself then. And that's exactly what I did. And they came and cleaned it up after it was all done. Now there's sun flow that actually comes through the tree onto the grass, so I'm not having the problem with the grass dying anymore.
Jack, you got a comment?
I got 2 comments, okay? Going down a little bit further in there, it says private zone fence landscaping. The last bullet there says alley yards must have a minimum of 25% plants other than sod. What do you mean?
That's actually in the pattern book. It's actually in the pattern book.
25% of the area?
Yes, the alley yard is basically the area from your fence to the alley. And so the request is that you have plants out there. You can't just have grass and nothing else. That's in the pattern book.
Okay, all right.
But we can look at that again if you don't like. Can I take a moment? I just want to go back and clarify, because Dave was bringing up something different about plants in front of the picket fence than Vanessa was. If I'm correct, you think that some picket fence in general, whether it's on Longview or not, shouldn't have to have plants in front, correct? No. Okay, so I just want to clarify, y'all want me to go to the ARC and ask them if they feel plants are necessary in front of picket fences, or just in situations like Longview where they're too close to plant?
For me, I think that if it's impossible to do something, I hate to put somebody in violation. So I'd like them to look at something where it's impossible.
Okay.
That's just me. I think
a good way of doing it is maybe giving the examples of some of the concerns that have been brought up tonight. Leonard, do you have a comment?
I have a comment from a particular sitting standpoint. I'm on sidewalks a lot in Celebration, and you have a lot of fences in the main village that are 1 foot back, and they have plants in front of them. The plants always grow out over the sidewalk.
That's a fact.
You cannot keep them cut back enough. So then you don't have enough sidewalk access through there.
Right.
You don't have
Yes.
a full 3 foot that is required under the law.
Yes, I've seen that situation.
I run into that myself.
So why force
Constantly I'm
people
cutting it back.
into a situation
very hard to maintain.
where you have to put this in, but there's no way you can maintain it and have it look good?
I think
Without a 2 foot buffer, I don't
Right.
think we can do anything in there.
totally correct. That's a
what
totally
I'm
good
saying.
point. And I
That's
also
perfect.
think it depends on what kind of plants you choose. I've seen a lot of people who like those agapanthus or dinellas, and they're big grassy, and they end up halfway on the sidewalk. I
But
think
everything else,
if
I'll
you
take you for a walk one day if you like.
No, I've seen it, so I'm well aware. I agree. And so a lot of times we'll cite people for trimming back the plants from the sidewalk.
'Cause you can
So I
start
think
down-
there's
you
definitely
start down
a
at
plant
Celebration
choice.
Avenue and start heading up, and the first set of apartments that are on the right, all of their bushes come this far over in the sidewalk area. They need to be cut back. Some of them are probably too fat bushes, shouldn't have been planted there to begin with.
I agree.
So,
But
I agree.
you're not keeping that done correctly, and I would like to address that now,
Okay.
so it doesn't go forward into the new guidelines, and secondly, so that it gets fixed.
So,
Okay.
Suzanne, I think we're hearing a lot of feedback that we need a little bit more clarification for the fences and walls.
Look into that. Okay.
As it specifically, go ahead.
Question, free sum it up, because I'm a little confused about something. Because I understand if somebody's grandfather, you have a fence, you're happy with it, that's it, good, whatever. But you're saying that, like Vanessa's case, she'd like to move her fence back, but the next door neighbor doesn't have to.
It just, I think
It just
my
won't look
point
like
is
it.
that
Throws it off.
if your goal is to have a streamlined look,
Straight down the road.
Why, I mean, if I'm replacing my fence anyway, why would it be so terrible to say you now have to move it one, I understand about plantings and everything, but.
I mean, you can.
Are you saying,
You-
are you
yeah, you
saying
can.
replace with existing? You're saying still require the
That when
setback?
you go to replace, you do have to adhere to the, rather than you, for perpetuity, you can just keep putting it in the same place. Then when you go to replace, not, if you have it, fine, you want it forever, great, or when you go to a place that you do, particularly in some of these more problematic situations, do have to.
I think it's a good point to look at. I think generally people don't like you taking away their property. You know.
So with conformity as the goal ultimately, because all the fences will eventually have to be replaced to that.
Good point, thank you.
It's a question that we'll take
Suzanne,
back.
I got one other thing on this
Okay.
page. On page 4, at the second bullet down at the top, it says the owner who looks at the fence is responsible for maintenance of the fence inside and outside. And it says, however, a neighbor or owner may maintain. I would strike that last sentence off.
Okay.
This sentence.
You don't feel like neighbors should,
Well, I don't think this, it doesn't add anything to the design guidelines.
I think
Okay.
it's what they're saying is you can power wash that side of your fence if you need to. Is that what I'm reading to it?
Well, it's saying.
If you wanted to, yes.
Responsibility rests with the owner,
Which one is it?
okay?
First bullet point, our second bullet point,
Yeah.
page 4.
It says it's responsibility rests with the owner. I don't see anything that second sentence adds to that sentence.
I think they're just trying to say if someone came back and said, okay, he washed he washed my fence. Well, it was facing his
Okay,
property.
it's still not, don't make it that neighbor's responsibility to pressure wash the fence. If somebody
It's the
has-
owner's responsibility.
That's right.
That's why it says
So
they
just-
may maintain it, but okay,
I
that's
don't
fine.
think it adds anything.
Okay, sure.
Just one more thing about that mulch stuff, instead of grass,
Yes.
that will wash away. Okay, especially the way mine's set up, I have at least a 20% drop, like this. You lose the whole thing.
It'll wash all into the sidewalk.
Goes right
Which
into
goes
the,
back
goes
to
right
what
into
Leonard
the
was
alleyway,
talking
into the storm sewer.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying about the grass. At least it holds the dirt, it holds everything in place.
Okay.
But that does depend upon the size, because you
Right.
can't have a six
I mean-
6 inches of facade would be pretty hard to maintain. So I think it goes back to the easements. You know, are we talking about 0 to 12? Are we talking about 12 to 24? What kind of,
See, I cut my own grass, so I don't have
Okay.
a problem with that, because I have a push mower. So, it fits anywhere I want to go.
Right.
But landscapers would have to actually take out an actual
Something
power
smaller
mower
than- yeah.
and actually run the line down. Most of them have it anyhow, because I see them cut across the street, because a lot of people have been complaining about the heaviness of the mowers now, the wide tires. Actually, St. Augustine gets crushed. And it crushes, it turns brown. And the only way of stopping that is basically if you use just a hand mower, they're lightweight, they don't crush the grass, and that's why it grows.
Okay.
That's why I haven't had a problem. When I got rid of the landscaper over 15 years ago, that's the reason why.
Okay,
So
very
Suzanne, looks like
good.
we're asking for some.
Sounds good.
So,
Happy to do it.
Moving on.
Eric, real quick, before we move from fence and walls, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. We want to talk about hardware to this, to the
Yep.
guidelines. We want to make sure that we address the front yard fencing. Specifically, example would be the long view.
the end of Longview?
And we'll just talk, have a general conversation about that.
Okay.
And then look at plants that could grow into the sidewalk that could possibly
Yeah,
violate.
and the only other comment that I actually had that I just ignored before was as far as materials, we had a situation previously for stone veneer. It was manufactured out of concrete. Technically, the way that it reads is that you can't have an unfaced concrete material, which
Okay.
technically that stone is. So I don't know if I'm getting too nitpicky, but I just hate for someone to want to put in you know, and then they say, well, you can't have that because it's technically concrete.
I agree.
So
What, do people allow, would we allow stone in your fence anywhere?
we have.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
We just, yeah, it was just.
It was the
a
columns
field.
though, right?
Yeah.
Not the
Columns.
It wasn't
not
the
the
original
fence.
fence.
But it could still be, so, okay, I'm going back now to the fence that was on East Lawn that the owner wanted to put in a
Yes.
PVC.
I remember what you're talking
stone
about.
fence.
It was like a mountain.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
we said no.
Yeah, I
because
remember
it was
that now. Yeah,
PVC,
yeah, yeah.
and then we recommended the stone veneer look to him.
I
for
think he
stacked
was
stone.
denied because of the style of the fence. It was more of a northern mountain type of architecture. and
Gotcha.
He was, but yes, I know what you're saying. Material wise, we should be specific on that.
Okay.
And I think that also applies, referring back to that appeal that we're talking about as far as columns. If we put that in there, then we don't have this issue going down the line about what was I talking about when I talked
Right.
about this kind of stone. Okay.
But also, I think one of the things we have to be careful about is there may be material that we don't put in here that may be
In the future.
right that we may want to do.
Sure.
Just, you know what I mean? And if it fits the style of the house, I mean, then it should fit the style of the house, and just, who cares what it is?
Right.
But I think we didn't mention that talked about side yard style shall be lattice, shall be solid, and all the rear yard. We have to just change that shall. I think we just put that other places, so.
Well, you want me to clarify the part about black aluminum fences.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
It's a shall be.
In other words, if
Solid.
you're doing a white vinyl privacy fence, those shalls apply. But if you're not, then those shalls don't apply,
No.
right?
Well,
Exactly.
Basically,
it's, if you're doing an opaque fence,
pardon me.
if you're doing an opaque fence,
Yes.
then it applies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
We okay to move on to landscape lighting?
Yeah.
All right.
This one has a lot more fleshing out, basically. You know, people enjoy landscape lighting, and coming down from TCC that wasn't really encouraged. I know there was some in East Lawn and the Acadias where they were installed when the homes were built, but in generally you don't see a lot of landscape lighting celebration. For people who do want to do it, there's just some specifics that are put down. I know some homeowners have kind of said over time, you know, what about solar lighting? What about solar lighting? That's a big thing now. So those specifics we're just putting under here for lighting permitted. There's electric, of course, which the ARC always tries to promote, the nice architectural grade landscape lighting that kind of have cords. And then also solar lights. Those are a great way to, you know, use the energy from the sun to light up plants. And so the only thing with that, obviously, is because they usually have those big panels, we try to have them just covered with some shrubs, maybe, you know, not sticking right out in the street.
And the only thing that I guess I would, even though it's a solar light, it would still have to conform to the material guidelines, correct?
Yes.
So I think that, I mean, I know that that's there, but I guess I would just remind ARC that even though it's a solar light, it would still have to conform to the
Okay.
above material guideline.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's fine as written.
Okay.
I know you're getting to the lighting that's not permitted. Fiber optic is not a type of lighting. I know I'm getting very specific here, but it's
Okay.
a conduit for lighting. I can have LED fiber optic lighting.
Okay.
And I guess my dumb question is why wouldn't we permit fiber optic lighting?
What's the definition of the lights that are stringy that everyone calls the fiber optic lighting?
Like the tube lighting, you mean? The
Rope
rope
lighting?
lighting? Rope lighting?
Like those little, like, hairy.
You see them around the holidays all the time. It looks like hair light, right? Isn't that?
You're talking about the ones that looks like
That
long?
is
It's like a tube.
Is that what they're talking
I
about?
see. It's rope lighting.
Yeah, because
Oh.
they're fiber strands. That's what they used to remember.
Right,
If you
those-
want to have like a big thing.
It's a 70s thing.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
those things.
that's what he's
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about. Yeah.
Well, this is what I think.
I don't think he's talking about.
Do you have a picture of what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I think this is
Oh,
what.
wavy things like hair.
That's
Looks
what's
like
being
hair.
addressed.
It's a
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the,
That's-
yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that considered fiber optic lighting?
Someone
Yes.
wants to put that in their yard?
But I
I
no.
think that's part of the reason why they're being addressed, right?
Well, that
I've
wouldn't-
never seen one.
Technically, they
that
would
wouldn't
break
fit into the,
with wind or
that
anything
wouldn't
like
fit
that.
into the material guideline.
Okay.
Yeah, they would break quite
Because
easily.
it's plastic, technically.
Yeah, it is.
So it just
they'll
comes
break.
out completely.
So,
It's interesting.
Okay.
It was a big 70s look, you know, all the hippies used to have it and smoke
Yes.
dope and look at it. But those are-
It's making a comeback.
Yeah.
My kids have.
Well, the dope is coming back too.
What's old is new. Right?
That's
Well, the
right.
marijuana's coming back, so why not?
Bell bottoms. Everything.
the only other thing too, though, is that
Yeah, black lights,
the
too.
only time that I think that's not, doesn't seem to be spelled out here that I can see very quickly is, I know there's a separate design guideline for flag lighting that's under flags. Does that need to be, no, for the American flag to be lit at night?
Yes.
We can refer to say if
So
this is,
if this is for an American or whatever, if it's for a flag, it needs to be,
I mean, he needs to abide by those guys.
If you have a
Refer to
flagpole.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
I think it's already covered.
Maybe refer back to.
Well, this is landscape lighting, this is not
Flag.
that's, yeah, you're right, actually. That's typically, that line is in the lighting structure. there is a guideline for lighting that's just regular.
I think
as far
that's
as
what
lighting.
Eric's saying, though, is just to say that.
I have a light in my landscape.
Gotcha.
Right.
For my
Because-
flag.
Right,
Refer
because they're
to
usually on the
The
ground.
existing
So-
guideline.
Yeah,
Because it's not attached to my house,
Yep.
because it wouldn't.
you're
light
right.
the flag,
You're right.
so.
There's also specifics, I don't know if this line's highlighted, but the light source shall have a temperature between 2700 and 3500 Kelvin. That's one of those things where people, what does that mean? But it means the warmth of the light. If you go higher than that, you end up with those blue kind of lights or the weird funky white. So we're trying to keep them warm. So that's what that refers to. And that gives people a guideline when they're looking at boxes. Okay, this is the right number. These should be okay.
So the LED lights and some of that stuff would be different. But, so tell me what is different, so I could now have landscape lighting all around my landscape, is that?
You generally could have applied for it anyway.
Was that?
You could have applied for it anyway. It was never prohibited. It's more now expanding the kind of information to people on if you do want to do landscape lighting, here are the guidelines. Here's more specifics. Here's some colors. Here's some numbers on Kelvin. You can do solar. It was a very short, limited guideline, so it's kind of expanding it out for residents who do want to do it, but just make sure they do it the right way.
Right.
With anything else, you have to submit, and also with landscape lighting, you have to submit the lighting into a landscape plan. So you're saying, I'm uplighting this beautiful crepe myrtle, or I'm uplighting, these
Suzanne,
flowers.
As opposed to some of the other guidelines, this has no guidance as to how to submit.
On the back of it.
It just has a request for approval, but like this other one over here, it says, you prepare an application for approval, example, it tells you need to have a survey and stuff like that where you're going to put it. This really doesn't tell you what you need to do.
Okay, on the second page under review, it says technical data sheets are required. It also says a landscape lighting must be submitted with the landscape plan.
Last page.
And then it says nighttime photos and on-site observation by ARC may be required.
Yeah, where do you have that? I don't
That's
have
good.
It's right
That's
after
good.
maintenance.
it. Okay, I don't have that page.
You wanna look at it?
Those are tricky to review. I've spent quite a few evenings with the ARC, all huddled around the house, looking at all the lights and kind of reviewing it that way. You got to get them all together to look at
Are
it.
we comfortable with landscape lighting?
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
have one question.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
And I know you have it low lighting and you guys can look at it at night. I don't know if you want to put in something here or if it's already covered. I've gone through it. I just know we had a situation where when I went to CTD meeting, there was a light shining, and again, that was a higher light. I don't know if you were at that meeting.
It was into someone else's
Lighting
house.
shall not spill into neighboring.
Yes,
I mean, like he was, yeah.
that's definitely put in
So
there
if
for
the
that very
neighbor
reason.
was to complain,
Yeah.
then it would be.
Yes,
Perfect.
definitely.
So my question says, owner will be contacted in advance to arrange for all lighting to be operated on the night of the
Of the
review.
review.
Right. So
What
in
is
other
that?
this a couple years ago, someone wanted to do landscape lighting, but he's out of town, and obviously I can't do review until you're home. You turn them on, and then we can all go look.
So
you
turn on the
coordinate.
lights that already got approved, or
No,
I'm not
this
sure.
is for the application
Turn on the
process.
existing lights, turn on
Turn on
what
the
lights?
existing.
The lights that are.
In this
No,
case-
in order for you to get signed off.
In this case, the homeowner had installed them without approval. So yes, it was
But that's what it
basically.
sounds like to me, is that says owner will be contacted in advance. to
Oh, you're
arrange
saying
for
it's
all
already
lighting
in there
to operate
before
on
the
night of
approval.
review.
If
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not in there, then you don't have to schedule a night visit. But after they're installed, we would have you install them, take a
Make sure
look
you
at
did-
them and go
To
back
make sure
and
that they,
look.
You
to
didn't
To
make
make
cheat.
sure
sure
they're
that
done
they.
correctly, just like you would any other kind of
Okay.
project.
Kinda
You
like
gotta
the
look
same
at it
thing.
afterwards.
All right.
Like I had to tell them.
But
when I
you're
was
not
at
waiting
the
to
house.
approve, you're not gonna wait to approve it, you're
So-
basically, because I wouldn't go buy it unless it
No.
was approved.
Right.
So you're just gonna inspect it later.
Yeah.
But and for the exception is that someone installed them without approval, and this has happened a few times.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay.
go schedule it, go look at it, say what's wrong with it, and come back.
So instead of considering it the night of the ARC approval, it's the night that's scheduled for final approval then?
Yeah.
Would that make more sense?
No, because, I mean, if you tell me, maybe you just say, we're gonna inspect we're
Yes.
gonna inspect it
Yeah.
after it's done for final approval.
And it could just
Tell me there's
be-
an inspection at
Right.
the end, after it's
Right.
done.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
in town? If so,
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just afraid that you weren't going to approve it until you did, and I wouldn't spend money on doing it.
Right, and then
Yeah.
you'd say, no, you
Yeah,
can't.
that's fine, I understand.
Right, gotcha.
But the purpose of it is basically to make sure that they adhere to the guidelines that were set forth when the approval process.
Yes.
Okay, it's verifying that they followed the rules.
They did the project as it was approved.
So I don't hear too many gross questions in regards to landscape.
There's
lighting.
nothing that you're saying
No.
needs to go back to ARC
No.
with this one, right?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, so landscape lighting is a green pile.
Okay.
Security devices.
This isn't very great, by the way.
No, it isn't.
We only printed them in case you didn't have it.
As long as they're recycled.
This is also a guideline that was very short. It was like half a page, and now it's only, not much longer. But the significant one on this one is that Celebration's always been generally restrictive as far as security cameras. I know that we had some, burglary problems a few years ago. There was a lot of people responding saying, I need cameras, and understandably. And so the ARC has kind of taken that and loosened it a little bit as far as, it used to be, well, we can't see it. And, now, okay, we're going to see the cameras, but there are better locations in other places. And then there's other things to do, like, for instance, let's help them blend in as much as possible, which means painting them. If they're low, cover them with landscape, whatever we can do. Put them near downspouts, under roof soffits, instances like that. And then also just directly addressing floodlights, which a lot of people like to do. And we try not to encourage in Celebration because nobody likes those.
So I have some questions on this one.
Okay.
It states, I know this is an oldie, but it states that at no time shall the security device be directed into neighboring properties. My approval from the ARC for my security cameras has the camera on the front end of my home aiming towards the street.
Right.
Technically, it's aiming towards a neighboring property.
Yep. I hear you.
So my question is do we leave that in there and it's handled on a case-by-case basis, or are we...
Was it high resident, was to see through the window or maybe in the street?
You're aiming at the street.
It's aiming at the street,
Yeah.
because it's if someone's walking towards your house.
No, but
What's
that's
naming,
the
it's probably your
You're not
walkway.
aiming at your
It's a
window.
walkway.
You're not aiming at
There's
your window.
spillover from,
Right.
Yeah.
it's
But,
getting
yeah.
I
into
mean, if you were to look through the camera, we would be looking at the person's
No,
window.
No, it's not like you're
Right.
staring,
Yeah.
and it's not like something where you're putting it on like a second story
Right.
to look into a neighbor's
I
property.
think
But-
that's the difference.
Okay, all
Is
right.
that I saw one come across about a month ago, and they showed us pictures of what the camera's looking at, and
Sure.
they were literally looking at the window of the neighbor instead of at the area. It was supposed to be directed kind of over here where the entrance is, but it was right across.
Like,
and
what's the point of that?
So we asked them to move it,
Yeah.
and they moved it, and it was fine.
Gotcha.
So,
There is a typo after
Okay.
proposed location. There's a period there.
show me where.
Do I have a crappy copy?
Where are you looking at?
Size, camera should be appropriately sized to its proposed location. Is it
And
by
just
the
remove
dot?
that
almost like
period.
a
Page
spec
here's-
right there.
Right here,
Ah,
Suzanne.
yeah.
Between location and
Okay.
below.
Okay.
That's the
Okay,
first
yeah.
mistake she's ever made, too, in the year that I've known her.
Either the camera is supposed to be face outwards, it can see your front lawn and say to the street, is that, like, is there like?
Not generally.
You just do the best you can.
Yeah,
I mean,
They're
I
usually
think
direct.
it's basically,
You know,
anybody can put it
it's so
anywhere they
picky.
want, because anybody
Yeah,
wants to
you're not,
protect
like,
something.
filming your neighbors on
We just
the-
don't want you pointing at a nut
at a
neighbor.
window.
Right.
And looking through their
that's
front
it.
door. Yeah.
And they have
by
to.
the way, we're not gonna be able to stop it when you do, but.
And they have to
you
be
know.
in inconspicuous places, which means you're not generally going to even reach that far because you're not putting it on the outside wall of your house. You're putting it probably on your porch.
Right.
You're probably, you're putting it by your garage, probably up there to see what's going on by your door.
But there's
You know,
always this discussion
things
about
like that.
You can't do the street, and you can't do this.
It doesn't say you can't. All it says is it
Just
just
legally more than.
it doesn't say anything about you can't. It just says that it should not point towards your neighbor's property. Is all it
And
says.
it says direct.
Directed
Yeah,
at.
and to me, I read that, I'm playing my old devil's advocate here, I read that as different than being pointed.
I agree.
Right.
Um,
You're not purposely.
You're not purposely doing
Putting
it.
it there.
The only other thing is that under the security camera itself, there's nothing in relation to lighting that is emanating from the camera. So like, for instance, a activity light or I don't want to get into IR lighting, but
There's plenty of it. I've seen a house with it.
but yeah, I mean, you see
Yeah, you'll see the red
the
light.
little lights blinking at you or stuff like that. So it's very easy, especially for, I mean, the IR lights I'm not as worried about, but it's like the ones where if it's an IP camera, for instance, my IP camera has a light that blinks to let me know that it's working.
Right.
And you fix that real quick with a piece of black tape, something like that. So then that way you're not seeing, like when you look, oh, you did a great job concealing that. But as soon as it's dark, you see this thing blinking at
But
you.
is
a
that
very
really,
tiny
is that
light,
really
right?
a big
It's
deal
not-
though?
It may be
Oh,
annoying
mine
to
were
a
a big
neighbor.
deal.
It may be annoying to a neighbor or something like that. Because if
They're not that
completely-
big, they're this big. If
I know,
they're-
but if you had a completely dark porch and you just saw just a red light blinking on somebody's
window.
porch
Some
all the
people
time,
are
it's
very
completely
light
dark
sleepers.
outside.
Eric, I encourage you to
Yeah.
resubmit your application.
You ain't coming anywhere near my house.
Eric, I Googled IR lights, and there's some big IR lights, but you're talking about something that's built
No,
into the
I'm
camera.
not even. Yeah, I'm not even talking about something like that. I mean, my question is that there are cameras that emit light, visible light.
But not in the
Gotcha.
purpose
Do
of,
we-
like
No.
filming in the dark or anything like that.
No,
You're just saying maybe we should address that. Make a note in
it
there.
doesn't need to be concealed as well.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Okay.
have unnecessary light coming from the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have,
Why is that any different from having your front porch light on?
because it's a red light going on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off. It's not the same thing. What we're talking about, so it tells you have a network connection, it'll just blink, red, off. That's
Right.
It's different, because it's an on and off. The porch doesn't go on and off.
Can someone tell if your camera's not working appropriately by the light not working?
That's not the issue.
No, nobody knows it.
That's not the issue. The issue
The
is
issue
you
is
got
the
flashing
noise.
lights. going
Flashing
all the
light,
time.
right.
How big is
And we
it?
don't allow
Depends,
landscape
but I
lighting.
think what he's saying is,
I've
in
never
his
seen
case,
I guess I've never seen a light that's that
You haven't
big to
been
where you
there.
could even see
It's
it.
in the
Yeah.
dark.
It's, I mean, on my, on
Smaller
our
than
camera,
neighbor.
on our camera, it's like this big.
Oh yeah.
It should be like this.
A little tiny.
Yeah.
but it stays on.
Yeah,
probably.
that's about it,
But
yeah.
it stays on probably. Some of
I'll
these-
see, I've never heard any complaints about it.
No
But-
flashing or strobing, I don't
Did
know.
you have your Christmas lights up hanging over the tree or something?
Was your light that big, Eric?
It was smaller than that.
It was smaller than this.
So you
It's
just-
smaller than that?
I don't remember that.
I withdraw
I-
my concern.
I did not get a vote.
So,
I'm not that
I
bothered.
have one more question. We did not address here, security, I know when you have alarm systems, are they under a different thing as far as the outside horns, which aren't allowed and all that? Is that a different?
You know,
thing?
there's not a guideline for alarms.
There's outside alarms.
yeah.
What good is it?
They're
What
not
good's the
allowed.
alarm without the outside alarm?
If you drive down Golf Park, almost every home on Golf Park has one of those old
Outside
school
alarms.
bell mounted on the outside of the house.
They were
And
put when we
normally
moved
there's
in.
a light, on the side of the house. They were clearly all installed when they were
By
put in.
Honeywell.
But they're all sitting there, hanging out.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if the alarm's going off on the house, I could care less if your home is conforming to ARC guidelines at that point, unless it's a nuisance, because the purpose of it is to attract attention.
But they're not
But-
allowed. We had to disconnect all of those. When they were installed by Honeywell, we had to disconnect them all immediately because they
If the
weren't.
developer agreed, then
Shouldn't have to.
then there's no reason to take them out. Today, if somebody wanted to do it, we would let them do it. But the developer agreed to do it on those houses.
They agreed and they were installed, but they had to come, they came and disconnect them.
But we didn't stop them from doing it. The homeowner association didn't do it because we
No.
can't override what the celebration company.
Right. Mine's still the same way it was when it was installed.
So, my,
It howls.
well,
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not addressed, or it's not addressed. Yeah.
If you can't see it though, what's the difference?
This one just says security devices, referring specifically, this particular guideline is strictly lights and cameras.
Right.
It does not, yeah,
it's not addressed here.
right. Is it addressed at all? I didn't think, yeah.
Outside audibles, that's what they're called.
You could have it. I mean, I didn't. No, I won't know about it.
Outside
The alarm goes off.
audibles are mostly hidden in the eaves anyhow.
I mean,
Overhangs.
right.
That's what mine
See
is.
it.
Do we have alarms dressed anywhere?
Alarms?
Security alarms?
Not to my
I guess my
knowledge.
question is, are we allowed to have an alarm on the outside of the house that sounds?
Inaudible, you're
If someone is broken in? or
Can I
glass
see it?
breakage?
As long as you hide it.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you can't. We're,
Because
ARC
initially when we
reviews,
moved in, we were told to take it down, so I'm
Just it's hidden in, my speakers actually.
It was under the-
It's
it was-
in underneath the overhang.
So you have alarming speakers that go out? Okay, so they're allowed?
It's not seen, you can't see it, but it's there.
covenants and ARC addresses exterior changes.
Good
So
to
if
go.
you've got alarm and no one can see it, then
Right, it's gonna
you're right
howl.
as a
I
homeowner.
mean-
If
And
you're
they can
adding,
hear it.
if you're adding a big speaker
No,
from
no.
the back of your house, and
No, it's a
obviously
little-
that's something.
yeah.
Right,
to
these are
look at.
small, they're small, about this big,
Yeah.
and they're up inside the wired
Okay,
inside.
okay, good.
It's just so that other people can hear it
Right, everyone,
when,
people,
when somebody
So
breaks
that's
in your
okay.
house.
Now, does it do one of those step away from the house, you're approaching the house, something like that, or is it like?
It's Don's voice, so
it's just a
all
siren, that's all it is.
Is there anything about, sorry, about, should I go ahead?
No, you're fine.
Okay. 'Cause I thought when I first heard this, about motion sensors. You know, like to control my motion sensors.
As long as
I
they
don't-
conform to the security lighting.
You shouldn't have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
It doesn't matter what the
Right.
control is.
I mean, you can have sensors on your front porch lights, walk
Yes.
up and the light will come on, they'll stay on for about 5 minutes and go off.
Yes.
What about,
Sorry, I was trying to talk separate up
Yeah.
here. I was gonna ask about the new, you've got the new smart doorbells that have the little camera in it.
Right.
Has it been addressed anywhere yet? I was out.
You mean having them or not having them?
Yes.
No, actually, the ARC brought it up to a homeowner once who was looking for a way to put a camera right there and look out, and they were trying to come up with a compromise where you didn't have this camera sitting right there by the door, and they suggested that product, but I don't think they used it.
They're about
But I've
this
seen
big, so
them.
they are, they're
Yeah.
okay if you just apply, I need a new doorbell, number one.
You would apply for the change,
Right, they're
but
coming, they're actually coming,
I've-
actually,
They go inside,
I
right?
haven't seen you one.
that's that new app, that's the new app for like,
They just cover it up. and
part
you can
for
see.
United Parcel, or anybody that's making the package delivery, you can actually hit that, and it'll actually hit your phone. You can be at work, you're looking at the guy delivering it, and say, yeah, you can leave it.
Can you just talk to him
It's
too?
been- yeah, you can talk to him, yeah.
There might be different styles. The ones
Yeah,
that I have
that's new. It's been
previously
on
seen at a
television,
meeting was
actually.
round.
ADT or
This is
somebody
a little bigger
was
than
talking about
this,
it.
or
Okay.
there is some that are round.
Okay, you can apply. I'm sure they might talk to you about different styles, but I don't see.
An issue about the basic passive security, which is our locks and keys, which unbelievably, I actually had a lot of problems when I was in the condo in terms of, you know, can you put, and somebody wrote this recently on the phone, can you put double locks on your door? Are there any restrictions? Because it's a vague area. Is this a different?
it's a different design guideline. So this is security devices,
So
lights
that's
and
what
cameras.
that's
So
hardware.
like, for instance, a hardware request. Like, for instance, I replaced my front door hardware. And the front door hardware that I had first, this is going back a while. The first one, I wanted to replace it with a keypad. And this was back when the keypads were big, and it got denied. Then I came back with a smaller one that, quite frankly, you couldn't tell it was a keypad at that point. It was still matched all from a look and feel. And I think they've even gotten more, not lenient, but the
They
technology
have.
has
They've gotten a lot
caught
more.
up with kind of the ARC, and ARC's caught up with technology when it comes to that sort of thing. So it comes under the hardware guideline, because they look at that as a, like your front door exterior rather than a security door.
Yeah, I have two locks. There's one on the bottom, there's a deadbolt on top. Now, the reason why there's a deadbolt on top, about 4 feet up or higher, is because the stupid door is so big that when the wind hits it, it sets the alarm off.
So you have to do it.
So you have to have both locks. And even with that, when we had the hurricanes, I was wondering why the door was buzzing. I actually had to put a slide bolt up into the frame of the door to stop the door from moving on top, setting off the alarm.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, you know, where I grew up, you basically had the double lock, and the secondary lock was somewhat higher. I would like to do that
Well,
here.
these dumb doors are so bad, especially on my house, forget it.
So, but we're not going to take, you are on that, you are on doing hardware.
Little sangria.
Come back for the-
But that's a good question. I've heard that come up before.
The white sangria?
So is everyone comfortable with security devices, lights and cameras for approval?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good job.
Next.
We're moving on to structure attached artwork and hanging decor.
That's the bug thing, right?
This is the brand new one, correct?
This
Yes.
is brand new. This whole thing should be highlighted.
Well,
This
let
is-
us tell you real quick why we have one, and then we'll, if you guys are okay with that, we'll hear the counter arguments to it, and then
We'll consider it.
This one,
because of the
this one
bug.
evolved because there were a couple instances in the community where one homeowner had artwork, or I'll say, on their house that was offending some people or bothered some people. It wasn't, anything, words-wise. And then there was a home who had probably 15 things on their house. And so the question came up is, we don't have anything that says how many you can have, what you can have, what kind of size there was. And so from a meeting with the board and the ARC, we were directed by the board to come up with just a general guideline of what it could possibly look like if we did something like that. They're basically very simple kind of things, reflective, moving parts, lighting, the artwork doesn't have lighting or flashing, and no words or graphics that may be considered vulgar or profane. Sized appropriately, 2 pieces of artwork being possibly the limitation. Color, material, and type of artwork must be compatible with the composition and tone of the structure it is mounted on. So those are just general things to kind of, in case someone out there puts something on their house, the side of a boat, and decides that that's okay.
Got a
So,
coastal, maybe a side of a boat, right?
yeah, could be.
So my question with this, when I first read it, is it's defining structure, attached artwork, and hanging decor. It doesn't tell me if it's in the public zone or the private zone.
Oh, good point.
Because
If it's in the backyard,
if
nobody
it's
can see
in
it.
my backyard, on my back porch,
See it.
well, in my.
You shouldn't be able to
if-
see
If
it.
no one can see that I've put a giant Mickey yard gnome that I screwed to the side of my home,
I want it, can I buy it?
you can buy it. I'll sell it to you.
Well, in generally, the way that covenants works in celebration is we decide on what we can see.
So, okay, I guess I'll give a better example. You have a back porch that doesn't have it's not screened in, it's not
not
nothing.
fenced.
Someone wants to put art or something there, they want to hang a picture or one of those hanging fountain thingies on the wall there, something like that. Is this applying to that as well, or is it only in the public zone? Or front
Should be.
facade, rather?
So far, this is applying to anything that you attach to your house, but that's open for
Gotcha.
discussion. Do you know what I
Right,
mean? In the
Which
porch,
is viewable
Private zone's
from
different.
the alley, the street.
I'd like to chime in.
It's not limited to China.
This is an absolute waste of time, okay? We don't have a problem. We've been here for 17 years. You've had 2 or 3 incidents to begin with. The problem is that the charter is written that says anything attached to the house is a structural change. I think we ought to change that thought altogether, okay? What we have already in Exhibit C, where it has porches, it's a very, very meaningless statement. Just says the board will promulgate rules at some other time, basically. And what I'd rather do, rather than have a guideline, I'd rather flesh out that section and just say what I've put in there for change, where artwork is defined to include but not limited to any type of art, plaques, signs, or hanging decor. Did I get it all the way down to you guys?
Yes,
We have one.
thank you.
Okay, that's what I would prefer to do, rather than creating a meaningless design guideline, which I might add also, you talk about, you define hanging decor, but you don't say a word more about hanging decor in this guideline. Am I allowed to have it? You don't tell me that. So I'm assuming that, I'm assuming most of the stuff has to do with front porches. And to me, I think that anybody who has an interest in their house and enough that they want to put something on the front porch, I don't have a problem with it. Now, you say, let's have 2 objects, no more than 2 by 2. Well, how about 2 objects 1 by 3? It's less footprint. How about 2 objects 6 inches by 8 feet? Okay, does a footprint mean anything to you? How about 3 objects that take up less than 1 foot? So I don't understand the 2 foot by 2 foot thing, And I mean, that's huge.
Where's 2 foot by 2 foot? Because that was one comment that I had that I was gonna say, I don't see one.
Installed artwork is no bigger than 24 by 24 inches.
What
And no
design
more
guidelines are you looking at?
Where's that?
That might be an old
Are
one.
you
That got,
using the old
that got
guidelines?
taken off. Would you like a copy?
One of my concerns is actually it didn't.
I need mine back.
It didn't address the size.
Well, it
Okay,
has-
well, then
they
we
haven't
have a
vetted
problem.
too.
My emails have not been getting to me at all. But anyway,
We'll set you up with a Gmail account.
Well, I tell you, when it was just a very simple thing, and what I looked at was the yard art that we have, the guideline, and that had stuff basically like this. There's a size, there's a material, there's no lighting, so a lot of those I kind of applied for structure. And again, this was a result of the board of directors asking us to produce something.
then I still have a difficulty with the last 2 sentences, or last
Okay.
2 paragraphs, where it says, artworks which do not meet the above criteria will be reviewed by ARC on a case-by-case basis. And then you say, all artwork will be reviewed, submitted to ARC for review.
Okay.
Okay, I got
Maybe
a
the
problem with
wording's
that. First off,
problematic, I
you know,
see.
we go shopping and we say, hey, this is pretty neat, let's
Sure.
put this on the house. Okay, and it may not be intrusive, I just don't think that artwork should be considered a structural change.
Okay.
It's not.
Well, so I think that the other thing too is that, and Jack, I know you understand this, but just so everyone at home understands, there's a difference between placing something on your porch and attaching a piece of art to your house.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, if I wanted to put a giant metal sun on my porch, it's not attached to the home.
He's not nailing it on the.
I'm not screwing it down.
You're putting it on a table.
And that would be allowed by the.
That's allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yet the moment that I screw the giant sun to the side of the house, it would fall under this guideline, which
Yeah.
I think is the difference. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
just
we
don't
were-
see the necessity for this guideline the way it's written. And I think it'd be better to put it
Can I-
under porches in Exhibit C rules and just flesh that out, because the first sentence of that rule is a waste of time to begin with.
But Jack, can I say that also there may be people that don't see the necessity of the trash cans being put away every time? I mean, there's a difference of opinion.
Well,
in
let me
what's
address
important to you.
that. Let's
Yeah.
address that right now,
Yeah.
because it's not being done.
I know, but I'm
And-
just
And
saying-
it's because our guidelines don't specify that it has to be done.
Right, but I'm just saying that we can guideline stuff to that.
No, but there is no guideline for
What I'm
trash.
trying to say is.
It does say they
I know,
have
but
to
I'm
be
just saying
behind the
maybe
front
people
facade of the
don't
home.
Guideline does not provide me anything meaningful, and I think it's not worth the paper it's written.
Right, I remember that.
Well, I think what they're trying to prevent is some type of a clothesline being held, like something that would be,
I don't have a hard, I think we need some sort of a guideline, because right now people, they're either afraid to put things out, or they put too much
they
out.
straight away.
Well, and that's
So
why I
maybe
say
that's
you
good,
could-
maybe that's
you could
what's kept
address
us from
that.
actually looking like,
How can we change
Like
it?
a
like
regular
Cracker
one.
Barrel.
Well, you
I
could-
like Cracker Barrel, for all those watching at home.
I'm just saying you could address this under rules without having to create a guideline.
The Sunday
Aren't the
fried
rules
chicken
hard to
special.
do?
Right, with the rules, the reason why we addressed this in the first place was because the rules will require the vote, right? And the
Of
vote,
what? Of who?
is it the vote of the?
A vote of the board of directors.
But then
What the design guidelines require? A
It's the vote of the board of directors with it being posted.
Same thing.
Okay, so because it's Exhibit C, it's the rules. as
And
opposed to-
design guidelines becomes
Okay.
rules. Okay? It's the same thing.
So right now, what you're saying is we have no guidelines at all for the porch or anything? Is we go by this thing that you gave us? Is that what we have right now?
No, you go by structural modification.
It's a structural modification right now.
Yeah.
Does that fall under what?
So you can't do
anything.
anything, so
You can't,
basically
you can't touch anything on that front porch.
But right now, we have the women's club, when somebody did their house, we gave them a plaque, or we put a plaque that said your house was on the,
So they can only have one
on the
door.
door.
Or Disney, when they sold your house, they put a plaque on the first two houses, you know?
But it says you can do that?
No.
No. Right, okay, anyway.
But
It's a structural
it's-
change.
It's a good argument that in the rules, it's got more teeth behind it, because then there's violations that can be fined for if it
So
doesn't meet
do
the-
Well, see, I just don't really see the problem, because I ride my bike every day and I see not that many houses have that much stuff on the walls.
So
So when a neighbor does move in and does put 50 things on their porch,
That would be the exception. And
no, but if we don't have
no
it,
grounds
we have no
listing
grounds to do
about it.
anything.
Yeah.
And it's happened.
And that's what I'm saying.
Well,
about
I was
the
going to
rules.
say, I think it's important because I think we're
not even on.
kind of talking like we're talking in a vacuum here. And I think, Susanna, if you can comment, there have been situations where we've had problems with residents that have either brought up concerns in regards to the amount of decoration on a home. I know there was one over in Spring Lake.
Yeah.
There was a couple of homes over there that there was questions
Yes.
of excessive amounts of artwork.
Well, then the question becomes, what's excessive?
Like
Is
we're
that
saying
whose
is two,
definition?
more than 2 is excessive.
Now,
Structurally attached.
That's open for discussion,
Actually,
but
wouldn't
if
say
you don't have
that. Yes,
anything
it would.
down, then how do you argue
well,
the point?
here's my issue with excessive. If you say 2, hey, suppose I have a huge wraparound porch and I have 2 little things.
That's true.
Versus
So-
a
so
very little porch with just 2 things.
It's like
Which is
the
excessive.
gate across the estates, but not
Sure.
across the little, I mean. there
Well,
has
that's
to
up for
be-
discussion. This is
Yeah.
just a start
Yeah.
on something
Right.
to
So
start a
I
discussion,
don't
so.
think you can put a number as a requirement. I mean,
What I would rather see, in my opinion, I'll let you speak in a second. What I would rather see, in my opinion, is instead of a number, it'd be a percentage.
Kind of like we have the 25% of
Exactly.
things like
To
that.
me-
Impervious surface.
but you cover a lot of area then.
Yeah.
I mean,
What could be a low
But
percentage?
we
just a
define a percentage, because I think the other thing too is I think really when we're talking about, we keep talking about the front porch, the front porch, the front porch. That's not what this guideline states.
Right.
I could put art on the side of my house,
Yes,
and
you
it
could.
still has to conform to 2 pieces. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about the front porch, let's say it's the front porch or front facade.
I agree, and I
Yeah,
misunderstood that. I
let's-
took that as for
We don't want something on the
So,
house.
I mean, let's place that so that we call it, if we're calling out the front facade, let's call it the front facade. And then, to me, we need to come up with a kind of a healthy percentage on the amount of structurally attached, semi-permanent art at that point in time to the front of the home.
That's fine, but I just want to separate artwork being attached as being a structural change. It's not a structural change.
Well,
If it's
if
permanently
attached to the
attached,
house,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
It's
Not the
a
porch,
structural
the house.
change. It doesn't
Structure of the
change
house
the
is-
structure of the house.
For example,
For
on a home, Victorian home, say there's planters on the outside, you have to get that approved.
I think
The
of that as
flower
like
boxes.
shutters.
Flower boxes.
If you want to
The
add them,
shutters are
yes.
permanently
Yeah.
attached.
I mean,
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Crap.
Eric, I told
Where do you apply for that? Where am I railing?
Right across the hall.
All right.
There's a meeting going on right now.
9 and 5, I'm happy to go.
What's on the railing?
Eric, can I ask a qualifying question to see which way we're going here? Are we saying, or is there consensus here that we just don't think the guidelines should be here at all? Or
No,
are we
I
saying
think that we
there
should.
be a guideline?
No, I think
I think we
we
should have a
need to
guideline.
prevent
I think
something
we have
down the
guidelines.
road that we may want to.
Well, I know, and I know this scares some people, but I think there has been a comment that people can't do anything to their house. And,
I had
you
that
know,
comment for an hour at my
because
front
they
porch
don't,
yesterday
they
on
don't
Sunday,
know.
trying to have a
So
peaceful-
I think it would be good to have some sort of a guideline to help people with that, you know.
Well,
Okay.
Well, let's go, I mean, right now, like you said, if somebody had a sun, put a little sun thing, and had 10 suns and just facing there, would that be something that is appropriate, right? And then they had the FSU thing, and they had 50 things on the whole porch, and they just decided to decorate it. There's nothing we can do about it, it sounds like.
Unless it's
Well,
Unless it's
physically
attached.
Well,
Correct.
what would happen is, probably Cummins would send a letter, they would submit an application,
Say what
ARC
holiday
would
is
say
it?
no, they
But
would
for what-
appeal
what's
it,
the-
and then you'd be making the decision yourself
But
based
what would
on
be
what
the-
you think
What would be the Cummins
is
violation?
appropriate.
Violation would be, what holiday is it? Because if it's a holiday, you can put stuff up, and maybe they have a holiday we don't know
No,
about.
no,
When there's a
no,
bunch of stuff,
no.
it's a holiday.
I think
No.
the violation there would be basically looking at the community standard. We don't typically see a house with 15 things on it. You know what I mean? That-
Unless it's Easter.
But because,
But there isn't
because of
anything.
right now, there is no guidelines, it would be really hard to find somebody based upon a guideline that doesn't exist. I would have a hard time finding somebody on a guideline that doesn't even exist.
Do we have that much of a problem? Do you see a problem?
I wouldn't say it's prevalent, but there's been actually 2 instances in the last year that we've had to address a kind of an individual exception
Those
case.
little bugs.
Where you,
And it doesn't fall under anything.
Those 2 ants that crawl on the house, the wire ants,
spiders.
or spiders, or whatever they were, the guy put them on the house, remember?
I do remember,
That was
yes.
the one.
Do you have, do not bury your car in
And that's the
the
reason why this came about.
Partly.
I guess as a consensus, is everybody, who does not want to proceed with the
Well, I
design
think if we're gonna do
guideline?
this, you might as well cover the yard, that it can't put, the life-size plastic alligators in,
We do have a yard art
Yeah.
guideline already,
Yeah.
so.
then go for the porch. And the house, I guess, do we do the house too, or just the porch? You're saying if it catches the house.
If it's ugly, we want it removed. If it's not, we're okay to keep it. We have a standards group that actually goes around.
Let's define that, Lee.
So, but I think,
Florida,
like,
gators ugly.
when we're talking about this, and if we want to start here, and I go back to my comment of, do we want this to apply specifically to the front facade?
Yeah,
Well,
private
the
area, you
first
can do whatever you
bullet
want in
is
private
the front
area.
wall of the house. The first bullet talks about no more two-piece artwork attached to the front wall.
To the front wall of the house. So technically, that means that I could attach 60 to the D side of
Right,
my house.
exactly.
Yeah, I think we definitely should address that as we do that. Because the more you say that, I don't want to be looking at a bright sun, big thing from my
Right next to your neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that probably should be addressed.
Yeah, but it might be a sun worshiper.
Yeah, but I'm not afraid of the sun worship, I'm afraid of some
But-
other strange issue.
So we're already taking one back to ARC. What we can do is we'll address that with them and talk to them about a percentage of the house and what makes sense with that. Because it
and
sounds like that's
the zone or zones that this would apply to. And to Jack's point, though, I mean, Jack, you had mentioned as far as with, I mean, does it, once again, it's a guideline. Can we, are we enforcing off of it, or are we just
We
kind
do
of?
enforce all of it, yes. of
Okay,
course.
okay, just want to make sure.
Anytime you violate a guideline,
It falls under Exhibit C.
well, no, it depends on the charter. It's
It's
part of the charter.
Or the charter, okay. Okay.
I just have a suggestion, in the interest of time, is there any possibility we could look at this, or do we want to hammer it out now?
No, I think we need
I
to
think
this just needs more discussion with the ARC.
right.
and, yeah.
But we'll make sure we know what we're discussing with them. So the first one, we want to talk about percentage from publicly viewed areas of the
I don't know,
house.
that's what Eric said.
That's what I
I'm
said.
not 100% sure that, yeah.
I mean, in your back
Great.
porch,
How do you
you
quantify
have to take
that?
down the hot tub, you have to take the.
I'd be interested to hear discussion about it, you know.
Sure.
They might come up with some other way to.
I mean, I think the backyard, you've got to have some leeway, you've
Right.
got,
I think we're talking about
Publicly, right,
private
it's
zone.
not
Maybe
just
not
publicly
talking
viewed
about
areas.
no, but backyard, if it seems.
Were there any other
it's not
bullets
bad.
that you guys had real heartburn with? Because I know Jack mentioned the last two sentences and just the wording of those, and that's something we can work
I
on.
would
It's
like to give the
inconsistent.
people
Right.
I
the
think the biggest-
ability to read something and say, okay, I'm good to go with this.
Okay, so you're saying they shouldn't be individually reviewed to decide if
Only
it's
they
great
see
with the
that-
house or
only if
whatever.
something outside the
Okay.
guideline that they say, hey, we're not sure.
And I think
Okay.
Jack's point about the size of it, if you only put two things up and you've got this little porch on a townhouse, but if you have a huge wraparound, I think that was a very good point, that it's got to be relevant to the property. Just like the gate is. You
I
have a-
think we were discussing that with the ARC about that, and that's when they came up with this kind of general statement that said artwork must be sized and located so as not to offend neighbors or be overtly visible to the public realm.
So it gives them an opportunity to say, I believe it's not.
It's
you know,
kind
better
of
something
a
black
general
and white,
statement
yeah,
of-
probably works.
All right, now I've got a question for you. Susanna, it says structural attached artwork and hanging decor. I see hanging decor is defined in the first line, first sentence, under definition. I don't see that anywhere else around here.
That's open. I think
Hanging
that's
decor doesn't
room
exist
for
according to this thing.
for discussion as far as, hanging decor, you're talking chimes, whirly-burl, those kind of things. Do those count as something,
I think
or
the
not?
where it says artwork, maybe it's artwork / decor, or both.
Well, was that meant to get at hanging flower baskets?
No.
No.
Flower beds allowed.
No.
Because that's somewhere.
See, and it says on there, this kind does not apply to furniture located on porches or patios, holiday decorations, or hanging plants.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But it is an open for discussion as far as the windsocks and the chimes. Is there a limit? Does it count because it's it's hanging from a hook from the house as opposed to being nailed in?
So if somebody had a ton of furniture and a ton of
Completely.
hanging baskets, and then they had all this stuff too, I think that
Hanging
you
baskets are
probably.
allowed.
That's how I'm hiding my camera.
I'm just saying, this here doesn't provide me a lot of good information.
That's fine. It's
Maybe it's
fine.
more
It's a
work. It's a
start.
good
It was
start.
meant
It's a
as a
great
start
start.
to just
Yeah.
It's a really
for
good
discussion.
So.
I would,
So-
can I make a
Because it
quick,
goes all
I just would
Jack's
like to make
porch. I
a
mean-
quick clarification. I want to make sure that what Jack said is not something that I maybe misunderstood. Right now, or according to the guideline, my perception is there should be no exception. Nobody should be able to put up something onto their house without going through ARC. Just like but with this new guideline,
rules and guidelines,
correct.
yes.
So my question is, why would that be any different from like security cameras? I mean, if we're gonna monitor something as extreme as putting a security camera in this particular location, why would that be any different from what we're monitoring
My
here?
security cameras aren't.
It was an expression of holiness.
I would only say because a security camera, I'm hardwiring something in. If I stick a Mickey up that looks tacky, it's there. I could remove it probably pretty easily. That's the only reason why I would say.
I guess
that's why I
want
would say it's a difference.
I would say, I think that, there's always that compromise between what we're trying to maintain, through the community as far as standards, and also people living in their homes and just wanting to do something that reflects who they are. So there's a middle ground there, when you're pave your side, your walkway, or you're going to date, major changes, as opposed to putting up a little something by your door. I think it goes into the fact of, let's just give you some ideas that you can do it, but here's our general kind of, guideline on what you don't want to do. We don't want to see, a 5-foot boat nailed on the side. We don't want to see a 4-foot, peacock. I don't know.
Movie Pleasantville.
I don't know. Right. But people should be able to do it.
Drove by a house today, it has 2 double doors in the front there, and both of them had wreaths hanging down from each door. So that constitutes all they can put on that house?
No.
No, it's not seasonal.
No, it's on the door, it's not on the wall.
Well, it's a front facade.
It's a front facade. It would be, technically.
Generally, stuff on the doors has always been kind of viewed differently because they're not attached to the house. They're hanging on a door.
Technically, I would say that's.
Well, I have a hanger that hangs off the door and you put your wreath on it. You don't really nail it on the.
You can hang it on the, we can hang it
No,
all
but
on
you're nailing into the wall. It's up for discussion. I'm not making the rule here.
One thing I would say.
We got down to the little laser infrared light on the camera, so it's.
So is there any other community in the country we can get some help from? Because we can't be the only one.
We can reach out.
We can't be the only one that's had this question, because I'm sure that what we're trying not to do is take away some people's individual rights, but
Right.
we don't want it to look like.
Well, the question is,
You don't want to live next to that person.
do we really have a problem?
And you also don't want to set someone up to where they go out and they do everything and then they go, oh, I can't do that. Now I'm getting a letter. Now I'm going to appeal. It gives people, sometimes it gives people comfort to know, okay, look, I can put all this stuff. It fits in there. Good. I'm good. I'll go ahead, however you're going to do it.
But if you're going to do that and you have to apply to have it put up, you have to make sure you give them the ideas of how to actually install it. Because if this thing can blow off in a storm, we get some pretty good, strong, you get a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing across the front of that porch, it's going to tear everything off, and it's going to slap somebody's house next door and bust their window, or hit their car. You're going to want to know that it's actually secured, that it could withstand any type of wind or anything blowing at it.
Okay, very good point.
So, Steve and Suzanne, I think you guys have enough to go back for some questions. So structure attached artwork and hanging decor is going back for review.
And we won't, fence and walls, there's some questions here. We won't post any of these until we get them all done. So we'll bring them back.
Why?
The other two, they ask.
Why can't we talk
Get them
about
done.
landscape lighting and security devices?
I guess we could post 2 of them and then post the other 2.
Start the 30 days is different for all of them.
I think he's trying to do them all at one time. But
Yeah,
I
because
like them all at one
notice
time.
does have to be
Otherwise,
sent
it's like,
out.
oh, another rule.
Every homeowner gets a written notice that it's
Those
being
written
on there.
ceremonies were
And so you're going to list, these are the 4 that are, or 3 or whatever.
Do we
So
have to do it via,
Some people have to-
mail, US mail?
If that's
Yes.
what they chose, yes.
we can also do, post it as well, but yes, it does have
I thought we
to
just put it
For the
out
design
for-
guidelines, it does.
I thought we only put it out for a month.
It's 30 days.
The Florida statutes have changed on that.
Oh, okay.
Say that again.
So-
The Florida statutes have changed now, so you have to give homeowners a notice that the guidelines will be changed at a board of directors
Alright, so let's do it
meeting,
all.
so.
So do it all at once.
Eric, sorry, I was thinking about funding it, so.
Yeah, sitting on a big pile of cash. We can, are we okay with reviewing of the design guidelines?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, by the way, I know it was painful.
Thank you,
No, it's
Susanna.
fine. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go to the ARC meeting next door.
Thank you.
So everybody have a nice
Yeah,
evening.
have fun.
Weekend usage hours. Mr. Waring.
Yes, last year when I started, it was one of the first things that I talked to the board about. I brought some data on a couple weekends, and I promised that I would bring back at the end of the school year what our weekend usage looked like. So that's here in front of you today. Just to quickly go down the list with you, does everybody have a copy of it?
It's on the same attachment as all the other guidelines
it's
from
on
the,
Workshop.
yeah.
Right.
It's the next one.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
don't
right-
worry about it.
The email,
I'll just go down the list real quick for everyone so you know what we have. On Saturdays throughout the year, we did 228 ID badges, and on Sundays only 53, so 175 different.
Is this for, what's the length of time?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's from October through last weekend of July. Not this one that just happened, but the weekend before that.
Yes, please.
Send it to me too.
For decals, we did 58 on Saturdays and 20 on Sundays. That's a minus 38 on Sundays.
May I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
What's the possibility of getting us, allowing us to do this online, not have to deal with this on the weekends?
Allowing applications online? We can, we just won't be able to have the decal or have the ID for you. I mean, we can have.
If I have the ID
submittal.
though, I've always said that every year my ID ends. I don't, yeah, but I'm not a realtor and my house hasn't been sold and, you know.
No, but I'm saying is the main service is provided for realtors, so we don't have signs all over the neighborhood so people can.
No,
come.
we're talking about ID
That's the open
cards
house.
and-
Yeah, no, I know.
So, and that was, and then we didn't have it before, we added that at one point.
You gotta get that picture.
So really, I think getting back to the ID thing, is why do I have to come in to get an ID? But that's.
Technology and getting the right systems and those types of things down the line.
Yeah, okay, so,
Well, I mean, even as far as not exactly automating it, you can still send an email to town hall, says I need to update my ID card.
Right.
And then you can just update the computer. That's all you do anyway.
You need a picture.
It's already on, they don't give you a new ID
They need a
card.
sticker.
It's a sticker.
It's a
The
sticker.
sticker, yeah. What, then
With
they're
the
gonna mail
date.
the sticker?
Who cares? If it's-
Jack, I'm just asking. Don't be so hostile. Are they
but what do
mailing
I need a
the
sticker for
If you
though?
can get
Why
in
do I
with
need a
the card, you
sticker?
don't need a
If I've
sticker.
lived in the same house,
I don't know. They always give you a sticker.
why though?
I don't know.
Because
That's-
people do move.
No,
I
but
don't know.
I haven't moved,
I
so
know.
why do I have to come in every year? It's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Maybe they can.
You're here anyhow. What difference
Well,
does
what
it
about
make?
renters? We have renters that come in,
All
they
right,
can
look,
get IDs.
I get it. I just hate when I go there and I find out that my thing doesn't work.
I'm with you. I've done
And
it.
I know.
I've done it.
And then I have to go to the
You
town
didn't
hall.
schedule to come in.
That's because you didn't pay the bill, that's why.
No,
I'm
because I
sorry.
paid my bill.
I'm just hearing
Yeah.
4 or 5 different things at
Yeah.
one time.
I'm just trying to provide an alternative
It goes.
reason for not having to come in here on weekends.
Well, and it's not the only reason why we're open on the weekends, not just for IDs and decals. These are additional. I mean, we have the open houses that we sell. They're $10 a weekend.
Okay.
We have ARC applications, which we had 19 on Saturdays throughout
How
the
many
year.
of the open houses are in here?
Oh,
So
sorry,
we
for
had it
open
in the
houses,
exam.
441 on Saturdays. and
Does it mean people that came in for that reason? Or?
That's people that came in to
get
get
open house.
an
So
open
that's
house.
double the amount.
They
of
paid the
getting
$10
IDs.
or whatever.
It's
Oh,
double.
yeah.
Wait, no, that paid $10.
No,
I don't know,
no,
that's
no,
what I'm
no.
asking.
It's just people.
No, the realtor pays $10 a week.
I will
for the
explain
I
it
got it.
completely.
I got it.
Actually,
Let's let him
because
talk.
we
Let's let
don't,
him talk.
I don't remember, I was not part of this when this was requested.
Right.
Could you please clarify the purpose of it and what
Okay.
you're
We'll
trying
go
to
back to the
accomplish?
beginning.
Thank you.
When I first started here, the 690 building was closing. The 690 building allowed for sales of our merchandise and then some of these items to take place. So we closed 690 building and moved operations to here with no increase in cost other than some toiletries and things like that. There was already the same electricity in the building. If we do a dance class or those types of things, and we would turn on additional lights. But we weren't paying any rent. So we were actually at a less cost overall and still had the same level of service to the residents of Celebration. So we were assessing for a year to see what the numbers look like. Is it still something we want to continue at the end of the 2015 school year? So that's where we are today, is to say, here's the numbers, here's what it looked like over the last year. So we had the open house, and then these are people that came in and got the flyer
Got
and the
it.
paper.
Okay.
And they could go out and look at the open houses. So we had 441 on Saturday and 358 on Sundays. That's 83 difference for Saturday over Sunday. ARC applications, we had 19 that were submitted on Saturdays and 0 on Sundays. We had phone calls through 255 on Saturday, 78 on Sunday. You can see a huge difference between Saturdays and Sundays. Portion yard sale, we had 7. It was just applications.
What do you mean portion yard sale?
It was applications for.
Oh, that didn't come in during the week.
Right.
Yeah,
This is just an extra day.
Sure.
And that was a lot of the mindset behind this too. Is some people can't make it Monday through
I
Friday.
was being used on Saturday, and I was like,
They're
yeah.
very appreciative.
Sure.
And then the front porch account was just somebody getting either their password updated. But I had 16 on Saturday and 6 on Sunday. And then for the summer breakout registrations, we had 10 registered on Saturday and 0 on Sunday. So overall, we did $2,990 in from realtors buying open houses, $10 a weekend or $5 for one day for the weekend. And then for store merchandise, we sold 13 items on Saturday, and we only sold 3 items on Sunday.
So what's your recommendation based on?
Well, I would say, looking at the numbers, Saturday makes sense. It's an extra day for people that can't make it Monday through Friday. And anywhere we can find technology that will automate and allow us to do these things where you don't have to come in, we want to continue to look at those. But Saturday makes sense because we're programming on Saturday also. We have and working towards.
So you want to shut down Sunday?
Sunday, I would say, is you can see that there's just not that much usage. The only thing that's really going to affect is the realtors, but we have an option that we're putting together to where people can go online and they can pull the listing online. And then we could do something outside with, there's a rack and the maintenance guys can put out in the morning, put it in at the end of the day. So we could still provide the realtors the same level of service. There just wouldn't be the one-on-one interaction with staff
Maybe
workers.
provided an emergency contact in case there is that. We have had occasions on Sundays, that's like work Sundays, that we've had some things that, thank goodness somebody was there. Can we
Yeah, and
provide emergency
Patrick
contact?
put together a nice website for it that we could update if the realtors pay their $10. We could add it. It's an added value to them to want to do it. So not only can you phone to as you're driving through the community,
Yeah.
so we could add on there.
So can I just give a little bit of history why we even have the realtor stuff? So in the 690 building, years ago, we decided that we're going to have the realtors would kind of sit, it was originally they were going to sit in there, one realtor, rotate a realtor. We had the building was sitting open anyway. And the goal was that they can go, because remember they used to be, at the 690 building, used to be a board that said, had houses for sale, houses for rent, all that kind of stuff. And it was, okay, we'll just let people go there and we'll just pass out things that said.
It also had to do with the open house signs.
Yes. So what we were pulling a lot of open house signs at the time. And by the way, the economy was going through crud. So a lot of things were happening. So we were like, signs were out of control, things were out of control. So we said, okay, if we gave them an outlet to have kind of an open house system, it may not be perfect, but it's as good as we're going to do. So we did it through 690. Now, it was only temporary, by the way. It was only temporary. It was never meant to be forever. I was on the board at the time, Tom's on the board, you and I were on the board. It was never meant to be permanent. Now, it's always been permanent, because sometimes we do things and things just become permanent. So I'm not against getting rid of it. I'm just saying this is how it came, or maybe we should keep it. It seems like it's being used.
Yes.
And if you feel like it's helping us probably not pull signs out and that kind of stuff, then I'm all for it. My question is, what's the cost of opening it on Sunday? So what is it, one employee for how many hours? How many hours did you have?
10 a.m. till 5 p.m.
Okay, so it's an 8-hour
And the maintenance
day.
hours are the maintenance employees are working anyways. There's maintenance issues throughout the day, but it's really the cost of the one person. They're not turning on a bunch of lights. They have the lights on just their area there, and the air conditioning set at what the air conditioning set.
Can I just speak to what these percentages don't reflect, in my opinion, from having been there, and I know it wasn't originally set up as temporary, and it's whether it's for the realtors or whatever, is you have foreign visitors that come in that have a lot of questions about the community. We spend a lot of time talking to them about celebration. There's people that I have seen I've lost count, at least 50 people that have moved here because they came into either the 690 or here and they found out about the community and, oh, I thought it was only Disney people. I didn't know other people that live here. They're from foreign countries. There's a lot that the numbers and statistics don't reflect, and I just think for one person to be here 10 to 5, for me, it's a small expense compared to what we spend on some other things.
And I think the open house program does add value to the community. I think it gives us an avenue to say, and we're getting ready to do it again because the open house signs on the weekends are starting to get to a point where they're getting out of
Are we
control.
pulling them anymore? I used to see people
We
pull
have
them. I
pulled,
haven't seen them.
I've
They
pulled
pulled one-
myself.
There was one pulled Sunday in front of our.
Yeah,
I usually pull it
we've
myself.
pulled before, but what we'd like to do though is take a proactive
CBD
approach.
pulls
We
them.
want to reach back out to the realtors again,
Remind
remind them
But
that
they
it's
charge them a little
in
more money.
violation. We want to remind them that
Raise
we
the
have this
price up?
program in place, and then we're going to let them know we will pull your signs if they're in easements and areas, or we'll have to find homeowners that have the open house stuff on their house. So we'd like to give them an avenue instead of just saying you can't do it. Here's an option of what you can.
And not only that, I mean, honestly, it's been, I don't know how long we did this start. For $10, that is so cheap.
It's a great
Why don't you
value.
up it?
Can you up it to 20
20
bucks or
bucks?
15? I mean, no, I'm serious.
Well, I'm
It's
trying
like,
to,
yeah,
right now I'm
it's
trying to
like-
figure out actually,
We're
because
giving them the
we've made, I mean, I don't think it needs to make money, but if it pays for the
No.
person there.
Yeah.
Or half the person there, because we've made $3,000 over the course of 7 months, 8 months, is that what it is? So if you break it down into, it's only once a week, right?
It's 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday.
No, but I'm just talking Sunday. I think we
yeah.
agree that Saturday
We
is
need to do
probably
that.
open
Yeah.
anyway, and we have it open, so.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's
So
great,
divided by
I mean,
32,
when I look
yeah.
at it by the amount of people who've gotten IDs and everything else, it seems like,
Yeah.
so really it's only paying for that person Sunday, so if we can pay for a portion of that person for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I know when we talked about it one time, we even talked about putting a real estate agent in there, rotating agents and stuff like that. I'm not sure that's probably the best thing, but, I mean, have we, I don't know the value for a real estate agent to get, do they think
It's
it's a real
huge.
value?
I mean, the ones that use it are very appreciative of it. I think there's a lot of new realtors, and probably the majority of realtors don't know about it, they don't understand it. But I think, my gosh, this cost of living, it's been $10 for how long?
So maybe, I would maybe talk,
Bump it to
try to allude
15.
to the real estate agents and say, hey, we're thinking about
But we're
paying a
gonna
little more
add
so
it
we don't
to.
close, so we don't close it on weekends.
Yeah, bump it up,
And
20
maybe we'd
bucks.
like to go up 50% and see, you know.
Yeah, put up 10 bucks.
$15.
So,
I don't think that'll break, I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
They
that
always
seems
go, is
like
it
a very
$10 per
small
day? And I
amount
go,
of what they
no,
get.
it's 10 a week, and they go, it's not 10 a day, I go, no, it's 10 a weekend. So their impression is it's very cheap.
so I know we're talking about what we're trying to figure out is the salary cost of the employee. And one of the things, this is technically an additional day. So Steve, with the staffing that you have now, is this person that we're losing at some other point in time during the week? Is it, because I know your recommendation sounded like it was going to be to close on Sunday, and the board's going in a different direction with that. So does this impact staffing levels throughout the rest of the week?
No, we can staff fully for all the way through Sunday.
Okay.
And I just think it's more than there's a lot
It's
more.
basically 8 hours.
basically 8 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, if you-
So, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's not including, if you load in somebody's benefits and stuff like that, and I don't want to throw out a number, but if you throw out 10 bucks, whatever, 10 bucks an hour, maybe it's 15 bucks with benefits if you're doing something like that.
Sure.
It's paid, I mean, it's
750
almost paid
bucks
for
a
itself.
day.
It's pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so it didn't, but if we charge another $5, it would pay for itself.
Right,
for
What if
that
you charge
Sunday.
10?
Right.
So throw in another
I would
10.
just recommend-
For a realtor? Come on.
Let's bump at least to 15, then 20.
$10 a day,
Well, to me,
Saturday,
it's
10,
the same
20
level of
bucks.
service you've been offering with the 690 building, and it doesn't cost you a dime more. In fact,
Yeah.
you're getting
You're
some
fine.
cost recovery.
But I
So
think the thing
I think
that,
it's an important service for our community and for people coming into our community. I really do.
so I think that, based on the feedback here, Steve, if we could reach out to the realtors to let them know this is what we're planning on doing. I think the other way is it's all in positioning, that we're planning on closing on Sunday, unless we can, and disagree with me here, guys, but we're planning on closing on Sunday unless we can recoup the cost of the facility being open and having a staff member here through, and it's why we're arguing the price being raised from what we all agree is kind of a minimal price
I
anyway.
don't
It's
think we
minimal.
can say we're planning on closing on Sunday. We just say, we've had it $10 for 15 years. We would like to bump it up to 15, and we're going to provide the additional service that, or 20 if
20.
they want, whatever.
and we'll have it online
And we're
now
going to have it
also.
online. But they also, it's just nice to have the person show you the map and show you where that is in the neighborhood.
It's
and
always
answer
nice
those
to have
questions.
that personal touch.
Okay.
And that kind of-
It's a small price.
Parking ordinance for Celebration.
Basically, we talked with Ron Cole, actually Cliff Akey and Susanna, Maria Fuentes, myself. I usually meet with Cliff like once a month. And basically, Ron Cole said, hey, I like this, and it actually went on with dumpsters and pods and other things. He said, I like it. He said, I'm gonna take it down to the county and see what they can do about it. He said, that may be the best way of going instead of trying to create an ordinance, because an ordinance is gonna require 51% of the votes to get done.
So like
we basically just tabled it.
So in other words, Indian, whatever,
Indian Wells. Yeah.
Indian Wells,
And
they had
Indian Ridge.
50%.
Yeah, and they were very, very tight neighborhood.
Sure, yeah, and it's a much smaller community than.
It's something we can do if other neighborhoods in Osceola County do a similar thing as far as dumpsters and stuff like that. But this basically came about because of one of the contractors in the operating out of Celebration was leaving his construction trailer there for months at a time, and also had a dumpster that he got in a dispute with the dumpster owner, who refused to empty the thing because he wouldn't pay the bill. And finally, the county came out and said, you got 2 days to fix it out. Okay, so that leads me on. So for right now, the ordinance is on hold. Ron Cole's going to look and see what he can do as far as adding that into the county ordinances.
Okay.
Hey, that's a simple way.
Yeah. So that may be a better way of doing it. But that leads me into another area then, is the bottom line was that we have a number of companies that advertise in our newspaper and on our front porch and various other places that I think if they're not being friendly neighbors to us, that we need to stop them from advertising and participating in the homeowners expo and stuff like that until they do show an inclination to obey our rules.
So, Steve, do we keep current documentation? And I'm not saying like casual documentation, but I'm talking about like documentation. When a complaint is filed about where we notice a violation of a contractor or a vendor or something?
Well, we have documentation for when someone's in violation, but as far as something formal that's official records from just complaints, I don't believe so. I mean, unless they're emails that come back and forth.
Because we would need that, wouldn't Jack?
Yeah, but I can, you know the one I'm thinking about right now.
I do.
And there are others. There are others, but I'm just saying we should not be friendly with these people if they don't treat us properly either.
And I can tell you, some of them, we've had applications for whether that be the newspaper or whether that be the Home Expo, where they came in and they weren't in violation, but they did go into violation before or after that event.
And Steve, we're talking specifically about the newspaper. It was my understanding that the Celebration News, which is technically a newsletter, is a CROA asset.
It is.
It's not a CROA asset.
A newspaper, yes.
However, 75% of the money goes to NOAA.
Right.
Well, that's
yeah,
to CJC.
Yeah, it goes to CJC, so we are paying for it. But
No, the newsletter is a CJC.
It's a CJC,
asset,
I'm sorry.
not
That's
a CROA.
Oh, it's a CJC
And we do
asset.
pay 75%.
Right.
Canoa pays 25%.
Right, it's a CJC. asset.
Gotcha.
So they
Okay.
work, so basically, technically, the people that handle this are CJC, work for really CJC.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, so again, we do 75%, so I would say
You
that.
still have some say.
Yeah, we
Right,
have a-
right.
Yeah, that's what I was
Right.
trying
Well,
to
we're the
figure
ones
out.
having
Yeah.
these meetings, and
Right.
they're not. And by the way, the companies that are probably that you're talking about are not paying into Sonoa anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's not like
Right.
it's not like
Right.
that group is an issue, right? I mean,
Right.
so really, it's really us. If we feel like there is somebody that I don't want to use the word blacklist, but if we find that there's somebody who's abusing us,
Yeah.
we should probably look at that in a different light because they're not paying in Sonoa anyway. So it's not like we have any obligation to make them to allow them in our newsletter.
Okay.
So.
And there's no written policy for that, but it can be looked at as a case-by-case basis and say,
But I think Jack, you're asking for a written policy, correct?
I would like something, if over a period of time, this person has violated left construction trailers or done something that is out of our design guidelines. For example, we specify in our design guidelines, and I don't know if the boilerplate has been reaching out, but every time ARC gives a structural approval that has to do with a dumpster, that has to get it's limited to 21 days. Okay, I don't know if that's been in our approvals or whether the owner has to sign off on with acknowledging this or not. But when I see a dumpster 3 months in place, that's always full, overflowing, that's excessive. Okay? And that's what we're trying to get by with this, the ordinance, was to tell people that when you're near the fill line, you've got to empty the thing, you've got to cover it at night, you have reflective markings on it.
Yeah, Jack, is there no reflective requirement right now? Because
No,
I've come around.
there's nothing
Yeah,
in
and it's dangerous. I mean, it's
Osceola
really
County
dangerous.
ordinances right
There's a
now.
really oversized one in our area now, and at least with cars,
Right.
the taillights are.
But you have to remember, the homeowner has to take a little initiative with this.
Well, they're
If it's gonna
responsible.
be in front of their
Is
house,
it responsible?
like when I had the roof done, they put the dumpster out front after they pulled it off to the side of the house. I made sure they roped it off actually with the yellow tape and also with the cones,
Then you can
so that
see
you
it.
could see it. But
Yeah.
you have to, you have to tell them, and I told them. Well, they were gonna do it anyhow. Performance Roofing was fine. They did a good job. I didn't have to really tell them, but I was ready to tell them if need be, but they complied with it, because that's the way they do work.
Because we are with Greenbrier and we always.
Right,
have them.
and somebody's gonna
That's when
wa-
you come around and it's
You
like,
could get somebody that's half smashed and is
There's
gonna
nothing.
really wipe out into that thing.
I think it's fair to say that many of the villages have a dumpster or so that is always in the
There's
area.
quite a few of them. I was
Yeah,
part of
there
the
are.
community center.
So-
There's a
Yeah.
lot of them out there.
Would we want, is the board in agreement that we want Steve to kind of come up with a recommendation for a guideline that states this? And then would this have to go to CJC?
No, in the current guideline, it's at the very end of the approval part of the guideline, of the structural guidelines, it says suggested
just add it to that.
stuff to be added.
I think they're two different issues, though. When Susanna's addressing the ARC,
Right.
the letters and the paperwork that you get to
No,
make sure
I'm-
that it's consistent. But what you're talking about is for the newspaper, and there's a
Correct.
set of
Advertising,
rules.
Yeah.
advertising specifically.
Yeah, there's a set of rules for the newspaper.
Okay.
I would think that would need to go in front of all three governing bodies
Okay.
then to make sure that that's
So-
approved.
Is it possible for us to get?
Sure,
a
we
copy
could
of
look at
that-
it first
of
and
the-
then-
Of those rules, and
Right.
then maybe we can put something, I don't know if we could get something put together by the next meeting, but,
When's the next CJC?
It's next Tuesday. It's probably
Yeah.
going to need to
Will
wait
it
till
need to
next
be-
month.
yeah, okay.
We have a CNOA and CJC meeting in August anyways.
Okay, I guess what I was kind of hoping for is that if, because would we have a required notice period? Oh, it's a rule though for
It's
for
for
the
the,
newspaper.
for
It
the
doesn't
sale
really
of
matter.
the newspaper. yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
No, it's August.
It's at their August meeting.
Jack, is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, anything we can do to clean up this place and not have to be subject to construction trailers and dumpsters that are unnecessarily left around. I mean, our only recourse right now is to go to the homeowner and say, hey, you need to have this thing removed in 14 days.
21 days, they're
No, 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 no.
14?
We give them a 14-day letter for a hearing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So,
And they could still be fined.
yeah, but it's a homeowner, we need to tighten this up.
Right. Okay.
All right, so, Jack, do you have anything else?
Not right now.
Okay. Review joint CROA CDD meeting.
It's tomorrow night, right in here at 6 o'clock, and we're starting right at 6, so if you guys can come just a couple minutes early. We'll have CDD and Luxon, and we will be here for a joint meeting.
And I ask you, the
What's the
conduct of the
agenda?
meeting, when the
Sorry?
agenda's posted, she sent it to us.
Yeah, we'd
The
sit
conduct of the meeting,
What's the- what's the-
is this a joint meeting or are we a guest of CDD?
It's a joint meeting, and CDD has their meeting afterwards.
Okay.
So Gary Moore.
We're starting, Gary's
So
gonna
this is
do the joint part of the meeting, and then when we're all finished with everything, they're gonna continue on with their.
Why is
meeting.
Gary doing the
So
joint
what
part
we're
of the
gonna,
meeting?
I'm sorry?
Why is Gary doing the joint?
Because I
part of the
didn't want
meeting?
it to have to be either Eric or John, because they're both chairmen, so I asked Gary to do it. It's either Gary or Steve.
But Gary's
More of
the
us than there
CDD
are them.
person. Anyway, the way I look at it,
It's-
if we had two groups from any group, you would kind of come up with you would say, this is how we run it, basically, to make it equal, as opposed to, it sounds not equal to me.
Well,
in some
Cliff and I
ways.
talked about this for a very long time. We are having it at our home turf and not the library, so it's a balance. If we had it at the library, we'd have Steve run it.
Well, we couldn't
It's
But
not
there's
gonna be
no
that long.
action, there's
It's
no
not gonna be
action
that big
being
a deal.
taken tomorrow night either, right? It's just,
Huh?
there's no actions being
No,
taken. It's
no
just a
actions on our
workshop
part,
for
and when they
discussion.
continue with their meeting, they're gonna do whatever they.
So,
I,
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions just about the agenda. My understanding is that our meeting's at 6, correct?
Right.
On your agenda, it says 6:30, so just want to clarify that.
It should be, yeah, it should be
Okay.
6. It was noticed at 6.
Okay, and then is CCD, I looked at their agenda, actually I got an email on it, and they start at 6:30.
6:30, but they're gonna start later if they need to. So they're gonna start later if they need to. If we need to do more, we have a speaker, we're coming in, and then
30
they'll,
minutes.
what they're gonna do with all of us is have the call to order pledge
Who's the
items,
speaker?
and then they'll continue on with their meeting.
So,
We
we
have
have
a speaker? Sorry.
We have a speaker,
Who is the speaker?
Dave, from Chick-fil-A about collaboration.
Dave at Chick-fil-A.com.
why do we have speakers? We have
You know what, if you guys wanna do the meeting, you can do the meeting, but it's.
I'm sorry, I
No,
just
I
don't
think-
understand. There's items of joint interest we have that
Uh-huh.
we should be discussing.
Because, Jack, if you wanna do it, you can do it the way you wanna do it, okay?
Are we having chicken
Well, I
fingers?
think, I don't think anyone's upset. I think.
I think, you know what,
We're asking
we're chicken
questions.
fingers.
you know what, we
in
had
regards to the way-
everything, yeah.
We're asking questions in regards to where we kind of arrived for the meeting.
We
as well
arrived
as
because
how-
I
as
was
well-
working on it and Cliff was
As
working on
well as how
Mhm.
the agenda came to be.
Right.
And I understand that you and Cliff were working on that. I think there was just some questions in regards to, there were other board members that had things that we thought that we might be able to discuss as
Right.
well. So I think that maybe for the next joint meeting, because this hopefully will be the first of a few.
That's the
that
hope,
we
and
will-
that's why we kept it small.
What's he
Yeah.
talking
That
about?
we'll be able to have maybe a little bit more collaboration on agenda
Absolutely,
items.
Jack, the reason we couldn't add the items you wanted was
Celebration of
Cliff
What's that?
had to have an agenda before they would even set
What's
the
celebration?
meeting or put a date in.
Oh, okay.
And I tried to add other items, and they said we want to keep it very simple. They want to keep it where we can work
Well,
together.
30 minutes.
You can work on something in the future. Well, originally it was supposed to be 90 minutes. We're going to be a little closer to
You know,
45.
to me, one of the most important things we have is getting together as a joint group
I agree.
and going downtown to the county and saying, we need your help.
That's why
in
we're
getting
starting with
stuff
this, because if we can sit together and have this one meeting, we can set another one, Jack.
done.
Jack.
I understand what you're saying, but this is something that I've mentioned since I got elected and since May.
You
I've
can set the next
requested
joint meeting, because it took since April 26th to get a date, and then Cliff did not give the agenda to Maria, so it was not printed or done at all. So as of this morning, we didn't even have a meeting because Maria didn't get it onto the schedule, so we just had to redo it as best we can, okay?
I have a suggestion though. I mean,
And
now I
they're
like
willing to
Dave.
wait 90 minutes and start their meeting. They're willing to do that. They happen to have 13 items on the agenda, which if you've been on CDD, it's like never happens.
Yeah, but I mean, I like Dave from Chick-fil-A, but you may want to just back him and go through because you have
There's
you
plenty of
you
30 minutes of
you have
discussion.
public stuff, you
We're-
have
yeah,
road
we're already
extensions,
back.
you have
Yeah.
safety, you have celebration one, you have future schedule, and you only have 30 minutes realistically.
No, we have more than 30 minutes, we're fine.
I mean, knowing them, they're not going to delay much because they're going to say, because.
I've already talked to Gary for an hour and a half this morning. They're going to delay all they need to delay.
I mean, because they have a public meeting, they have it set up, and I'm very. Still, I just think that, I mean, if you want to make it useful, that's what was, my big complaint was in the agenda, was paring it down to 2 or 3 things only to actually accomplish, to actually have meetings.
I would have liked to review things, but nobody could seem to agree on that, so it grew. But it's not that many things if you look at it, past the introductions, about four
That-
things.
that is-
But I know Jack wanted to add other
This guy's
things,
from
and they're very
Chick-fil-A.
No, I-
things.
I-
But it's the first of many meetings.
I have a
What is he
question.
talking about?
Safety to me is a very broad
It's on there.
subject.
Yeah, what are we
What are
talking
we
about?
talking about?
We are not talking about cameras.
What are we talking about?
We can take it off.
What?
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
What do you want to talk about? I'm not running the meeting, Jack.
Okay.
It's just safety. Someone asked to
You
put
made
it.
the
Cliff
agenda,
wanted
and
it
you
on
put
there, so
safety
it's
in
on
there,
there.
so I'd like to know what we're talking about.
Cliff put it on the agenda. We did not put the bullet points on there.
Oh, so we can talk about anything?
There are no bullet points.
And my
This is just a small meeting. We've got 2 boards and Mike Nunes, and we're just going to try to have a small meeting.
I thought we had the Chick-fil-A person, why, I don't see Mike Nunes, what is,
Oh, what,
on the agenda
what's,
though.
what's
It's not
Chick-fil-A
on the
gonna,
agenda. He's just coming.
what,
He's
It's
just
a public meeting. He's just
think it-
coming to talk with us with CDD. In case something comes up we need to talk about downtown, he's here too.
I think Debbie's trying to, with Chick-fil-A, she's trying to get us to work together.
No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I'm not- I know you wanna work at Chick-fil-A,
What I don't
but
want to do is I don't
what-
want to be disappointed.
what's it about?
I mean, and try to get through all the stuff, that's why I'm saying.
They wanna open up a
I don't
restaurant in
mind
town or
that.
something, or what?
I think once he speaks, it either will resonate with you or it won't, but it's 10 minutes.
He has, okay, so he's been given a time guideline.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes. And
Okay.
if you need to make it 6, we'll make it 6, but I don't want you to be rude to the speaker. He's
No,
talking
I
about
think-
collaboration, which I think is a very important topic.
Debbie, one of us knew it was 10 minutes.
Collaboration of what,
I
though?
said 10 minutes.
We just found out about that now.
No, I said 10 minutes. Okay.
Is there a reason why we shouldn't know what he's going to talk
Not bringing it
about?
out. It's okay.
Is there a reason why we shouldn't know what he's collaborating with or what he's talking about?
I think
It's an
collaborating.
educational, it's an educational
Say
talk. for
collaboration,
10 minutes.
it's just a topic about how different groups can get together and work towards a common goal, which is what this meeting is about.
And then my only other request
So
is
the motivational speaker?
Wait, can I finish
Yeah.
this real? My only request is with regards to number 4 on the agenda, I would like just to say road extension on civic corridor, not necessarily for athletic fields.
Yeah, because we
That would-
haven't
Because
really
we haven't,
determined that.
just because we
I
haven't.
understand. I
That was,
understand.
that was
I'm
my
asking
wording.
about
We can change that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, just because we haven't decided what we're gonna do.
But
at
and that
civic
may
corridor
not
yet.
even be a real detailed
Just so you know, this
conversation. We
agenda was
just,
sent to
You're
guys
not
on
gonna
April
get through
26th.
that with 7,
Yeah.
I mean, first you have 4 of us.
So Vanessa, just so you know, this
Seven
was
of
sent
us,
on
and then-
April 26th, and
I
nobody's
know.
said anything yet. And it's already been inputted into the it's already been sent out to the CDD, so I can't change their agenda at this late hour tonight. So
Okay.
we can change our agenda.
Okay,
but
that's
I
fine,
can't
just for
change
tomorrow,
theirs.
when it goes
And
out.
it was
we
sent
can
out
change
April
ours.
26th, and I can't change it.
This is not on any of their agendas, though.
Yeah,
Oh, it is?
yeah, it's on their agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
when did they change that? Because I gotta,
So, notice on board.
Well, the athletic fields, I asked Steve, what?
no,
No.
when was this agenda put on CCDDs? Because I got a message from Floyd this morning saying that it was not on.
That's what I just explained, that Cliff had led to give it to Maria.
Right.
So it wasn't on, so it was just put on a few hours ago.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't on at one point in time, okay.
No.
Okay, so, just so that we're all on the same page with respect to, so with safety, we can't talk about the cameras.
Well, I mean, I'm
but
just saying, if you bring up cameras, we will spend up the whole 90 minutes. I mean, I don't.
No, that's
But,
fine.
I mean, do you guys want,
What do you want to talk about?
What we wanted to do right now is say, what do you feel of these topics? What is the most important thing to you? Let's go through them real quickly and spend like 2 minutes on it.
I think the two things that are most important on there is the joint calendar, the Celebration One,
Right.
and then the public SEP automation systems.
Right.
Those are the two things that we truly can have a solid impact on
Yes.
with educating them on how we can work together on it and getting their feedback too.
Do you want to take everything else off and do it at a future meeting?
Well, we
Those are
can
the two I think that are most
I
most
think those we
important.
can
So I
well,
accomplish.
you can tell them up front that
But, yeah.
through
And I
See their
discussion.
agenda even posted, by the way. I'm on their website.
Right.
I don't see it posted anywhere. It doesn't even say.
It was
they're
sent out by
meeting with
email.
us.
The person that did it is from Texas, and yeah, that's why when I looked at their website and didn't see it, that's why I called Gary. We went through all this. So they were all emailed.
So with respect to the,
Do you guys want to take something off?
with respect to the extension of the road, I wanted to get everyone's feedback here on kind of what
I mean, I think you
that
guys
was
covered
and what
that
we're
in
doing, or-
Yeah, I mean, just to me, I think that I've been through these. There's 7 members. Us, we have 7.
Mhm.
They have 5. In order to get through more than 2 or 3 topics, it won't happen because everybody wants to talk. And the other thing too is, I think that when you get to these road type stuff, when you get into those type of things,
I agree.
better to meet with one-on-one between our president, their chairperson, to work on these things behind, and then you bring them back to a bigger group afterwards to get things done. You're gonna get nothing done except for, by the way, motivate might be good, you know what I mean? Going through some topics and stuff like that. But I think that, I forgot my camera, sorry. But, I think that you really have to kind of, some of these things are working out a lot of the process. It takes a little bit of time, and I think that, to try to, that's a very aggressive, thing, and I think you have to be specific.
I agree.
And I think you have to be very specific about safety, what you want to talk about, because,
I agree, and safety was not my item, but I think
Yeah.
if we don't offend them by taking off the safety on the road, I think that those would be 2 things to make to.
I mean, it may be inappropriate, but maybe you have to narrow the safety.
Jack, do you have any-
Can I make a suggestion? Perhaps let's put the first 2 that are most critical that we think we can actually accomplish in the 30 minutes in case they say, no, we really want to start our meeting at 6:30.
They were not going to say that. I talked to every member.
But I'm just saying, if
Yeah.
that ends up happening, if there's some, if indeed that's what
I
it's
talked to every
happening.
member
Yeah, or,
individually.
yeah, for that matter, yeah.
Today.
All right,
So-
can I just say one
Yeah.
thing about safety? Don't take it off, because Cliff is planning on getting county out here,
Okay.
county traffic out, and they're going to say.
And Cliff is the one that wanted it on there, so.
Then he
we're-
has a reason
We're
for
going
it.
to kind of let them lead that, and we'll go where that goes.
But I
We've
think
got
that's
5
pretty
minutes per
specific.
topic. We've
What
got
is
5
it?
minutes per topic.
Why don't we just say with the road then that we're interested in extending the road, and we'll have further conversations. But we
We'd
know
like
that
to
we
put
can't.
together, we'd like to have our person
Right.
meet with your person.
Right.
That's all.
We know we can't
Yeah.
discuss
No,
it at
this
this
is not-
meeting. We just want to
Yeah.
make sure you
Yeah.
guys know
It's
that
our
it's
intention to put a road through there.
Right.
We'd like your help.
right,
Right.
exactly, and it's a
Yeah.
public meeting. It's
Right.
everyone sees it.
Right.
And again, Jack, it's just, these are very, we're gonna touch upon things, these are very, very brief. It's 5 minutes a topic, 10 minutes with the speaker, it's very light. We're not gonna get into anything huge and heavy, we just wanna say, we go forward on this, or maybe you can assign somebody, or they can assign somebody to get it through. If Cliff's planning on having the county, he did not mention that, but if they're here, they're here.
It might be.
They won't be here
fascinating
tomorrow,
because
it's just-
I have a conference.
I don't know, Jack, were you
Are you,
saying
Jack? Are
this?
you talking about they're coming tomorrow, or they just wants to talk about safety
That's
to
the
get
email I
something?
got from Cliff.
Really?
Okay.
Not maybe a lot.
I mean, there's
I
also
told
the
you, it's
county
always-
traffic,
it's
yeah,
always
also
a-
set up a meeting with building department. I will include, well, that's some.
What would the building department be for?
I don't
Well,
know.
that's a surprise. I mean, basically, what we're trying to do is if we can get together and collaborate on things, then we could go together to the county as a group of 3 with Lex and us and CDD and say, whatever it is for the county we want to do. We're really not trying to do anything adversarially. It's just a meeting where we can find common ground, work together and go forward.
Yeah, I
Yes,
know if I
Joe,
would.
comment.
Additionally, when they do start their meeting, every member of the public, which you guys will be, can have their 3 minutes or whatever.
Well, the
to speak to
public,
them.
actually, we did move the public comment period to after our meeting because otherwise we were worried we couldn't get through it in the time frame. So it
I'm
is-
talking about
it's a-
when I'm talking about when the CDD starts their meeting.
Right.
If
They
there's
always have-
CDD on the agenda, I'm just saying, on the CDD meeting, their public comment period is after we finish everything with this. 'cause
Oh,
we-
that's what I'm
We're
saying.
doing the
though.
Pledge of Allegiance together. and
No, that's what I'm
everything.
saying though.
This is not
At
even
that
listed
point,
as a workshop.
any of you can speak
No, it's
up
just,
at
we're
that
just
point.
listed.
It's their
as a
meeting.
bullet
Part of their
point.
meeting.
It's their
I don't even
meeting.
see it on, it's part of their meeting?
It's their
It's
It's
part
just
of
a
their
before
meeting.
meeting. Before
That's
we
number
start.
4 on
No,
the
where's their,
agenda.
I don't see.
That's
no,
been redone, let me hear.
I'm
This is
looking
the
at
July
their, they have to
15th.
post their agenda. yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That
I
has
don't
been
see it.
redone, because that is what we worked on since this morning, that's been redone.
And it's legal that they
Okay,
can
hold
start
on,
changing.
where is their agenda?
Here.
It's there, I've got it right here, it's
It's
July
been-
5th, this one's updated July 15th.
It's been redone
And
as
we're
of this
number
morning.
4 on the
If you guys
agenda.
can- If you guys can listen, we've redone this, this has been redone since this morning when I
Okay.
talked to Gary.
They
It's
haven't
all redone, and I can send it to you, that is old.
Okay.
Okay, the new one has been emailed to all the CDD members. Okay, it's right here.
Can you email it to us, just so we have updated.
I guess the only thing that I would say in the future is that there is an agenda that's been posted. It seems that the agenda came from the CDD, for all intents and purposes.
Well,
which
CDD
is fine.
And I suppose we did it together, but
but-
the CDD dropped the ball in there. and
Which
It's
is-
been updated, and all of our agenda items that we agreed on for you are taken care of.
Oh, okay.
There was an agenda that was posted, and it seems that it keeps getting circulated about to everyone but us.
No, the agenda that you see that was circulated to you is the agenda that we are following for the meeting. CDD.
The one you
did
just e-
not
the one you
have
just
it
emailed
posted
us.
Correctly, and that, yes, and
Okay.
CDD did not have it posted correctly because when Cliff gave it to them, there was an error. So
Okay.
they have changed that, and they have redone it, and they have sent it to all their board members as of a few hours ago because of spirit changes this morning. Our agenda is our agenda. They have fixed their agenda.
I guess my only question
And they
is,
are continuing on with their meeting. They do have a meeting with 13 items.
do they need to make any motions though to adjust their agenda? I think once
No.
it's posted, don't they have to?
They have it posted, we are an agenda item, and we are doing from 6 to 6:30, we're doing the speaker, which is not on their agenda.
Or an agenda item.
So just,
And but there's agenda says 6:30 though.
Right,
Yes, it
that's,
does.
Lee, can I just say one more time, and please everyone listen just at once and stop reading? They have all been emailed a change.
Yeah,
They have
they've
all
supposed to work
been
24 hours to
emailed
community,
a
right?
change. We posted a joint meeting for CDD and CROA, we posted public notice.
We
plenty of
didn't
time
put the
for both
agenda,
of
we
them.
just put that there would be a meeting.
Yeah. We gave notice on the front porch.
Right, just
We
no-
gave
no
the
agenda.
Friday
And
night.
And it's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yes, we're
We
not
did
putting
6
the gavel
o'clock
down
for
till
the-
6:30. We're doing the little social, we're doing a little bit, and we're starting some stuff before that, but they don't need to put the gavel down till 6:30.
Oh, wait, I'm confused now.
I'm confused.
Sorry.
We're coming here at 6.
Right?
We're all saying hello, we have a speaker, we're gonna start talking. They're not gonna do any official business or anything till we start the meeting.
Okay,
Which is
Including
6:30.
us.
but our agenda, wait, but what we have listed here is what we will be covering starting at 6 o'clock.
Well, 6 o'clock we have a social hour and the speaker, we're probably not gonna start till.
Social
Okay,
hour?
social 5 minutes, I'm sorry, and we have a speaker. What's your question, Vanessa?
I guess I'm just confused. I'm sorry. My understanding is.
It is very confusing, because this was supposed to be the joint meeting for both people.
Right, no.
CDD posted a totally separate agenda because they did not get.
Right, no, I understand.
Yeah.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding now. My understanding is we are starting at 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and do, my perception was at 6 o'clock we were going to do this. We were going to do the agenda that's right here, the owner's comment, the verifying the meeting, the pledge of allegiance, the call to order, the adopt the agenda. That was my understanding at 6 o'clock we were going to do that. Once we were done with this, then they were going to go ahead and start their meeting. Is that not what you're saying?
No, because they were supposed to be a joint meeting, and this is supposed to be good. If we do it this way, we will have 2 pledges of allegiance and 2 call to orders and 2, we're going through everything double.
Right.
So what Gary suggested was we start at 6.
Okay.
We all come in, we have the speaker, we talk, socialize, whatever, and then you can go to the agenda items when Gary starts the meeting. And whether that's 6:45 or 6:30 or 6:50.
So this is going to be the new CCDD agenda then?
They still have their agenda on top of it. They still have 13 items.
Okay, so our 1 through 5, or 1 through 7 will be covered first, and then they're going to do their 13.
Right.
They're going to leave and do the 13.
They will do the Pledge of Allegiance first, and open door, and then they'll do the 13 items. Yeah. Which was not the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
And
it was just miscommunicated. Yeah, I think
very
that.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I think both boards were not expecting that was going to happen. I know based on
as of this morning, we have 2 agendas.
Right.
And 2 publicly noticed meetings.
Okay.
And then you have to have that. That's totally understandable. They have to notice their agenda.
Right, absolutely.
No. But they did not have the agenda from their person that they had assigned to take care of helping the joint meeting.
Oh.
It's just one of those things.
Okay.
So we could have canceled it, or we could go forward, and we did the best we could.
No, I think going forward is important.
I thought so
yeah,
too,
no,
so.
absolutely. No, I think I'm not saying. I just want to make sure that tomorrow when we get here, that we're not all trying to do different things, and we're all on the same page. That's the one thing that I would like to avoid.
Sit down, we'll have a speaker, and then he'll call to notice, and we can do all of our things, and then you guys can stay for the rest of their meeting, or you can go because the joint part will be over.
My thing is that the meetings run by the boards, so I just don't know who's going to move on the agenda from you know what I mean?
Gary's moving to all the part where it's joint, because I didn't want Eric to have to do it or to have John have to do it, because it was a joint meeting. And again, if we would have had it at the library, I would have asked Steve to do it just as a balance, because this is where we have our meetings. They have theirs at the library. It's just a balance. I could ask Leonard to run it, but I don't think he's running the meetings. You wanna run it?
As the goal area 1, though, was to look for collaborative
It's just
partnerships
collaboration.
with
That's
other
all it's about.
entities. So I think
We're not
if-
going to get through a lot of stuff. It's
if
collaboration.
tomorrow
never
turns
do.
out
Sit
to
down,
be,
say hello.
if it turns out to be what we may have some fears of, then it's not going to be a very good way of collaborating and moving forward. So I think that's the biggest concern, is just making sure that
Just be hospitable.
both parties it's a win-win situation. Both parties are ready for
Hospitable.
collaboration.
Well,
we can control.
I have a conference call with you that probably will still be on, so
What?
I'll be close.
You what?
He has a conference call.
He's not
He's
sure
going
when
to try
he's
and
gonna
make
do
it.
Yeah.
So I might be out there trying to get, literally trying to come in, and it's
Well,
going to
just
be,
come
it's
as
going to
best
be
you can,
close, yeah.
because it's going to be a very,
Yeah, it's
people will
close.
be here.
Are you going to be for the recreation master plan?
Yeah, because it's not
4
4
to 5,
6.
right. Okay.
That's smart, right?
Yes.
When's the master plan start?
And
Yeah,
so
that
it's
start?
at 6 o'clock,
When does the
right?
meeting start?
The master plan thing.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
And then
4
I
o'clock.
have that block.
Are we going to be clear by 6? Or are we in a different room?
No, we'll be here. The room, the way we're going to set it up, we can transfer from one meeting to the next.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to mention, one of the things I've done with Steve in the last week is calling and asking regarding contact the golf course about waiving or giving their property to us
Right.
for use in the civic corridor.
Mhm.
Figure it's a shot, because I don't know whether we have the ability to force force them to help us build a road through their property?
No,
Nope,
No?
we do not.
because we're not a government.
Okay, then the other question is, are they aware of the taxes that they're going to have to pay each year to the CDD? And that may get them off center as well.
Taxes if the road.
Well, they should be paying on it now.
Well, then, no, taxes on that property.
CCDD doesn't pay taxes on it.
CDD charges them taxes for that.
They should be charging them for it.
Charges who?
The golf course.
The golf course, got it, okay, yes, the golf course, okay.
So if it's undeveloped property, they're gonna be sitting there paying like 14,000 a year, something like
Right.
that. So maybe it'd be behoove them to donate the property to us if they're not gonna use it.
Can't hurt to inquire.
Okay.
The Davises are out of town for a few weeks. They'll be back.
I understand that, and Josh can't make the decision, that's frequent Jack's.
Just bring them a big pizza, I'll be happy.
Just jumping back to the CROA CDD meeting, in regards to the physical setup of the room, I would prefer, as much as we can, to not have it our board and their board.
We're gonna mix
I asked
it
for,
together.
I asked for it to be a square, and we're I asked for
Scattered.
seating to be scattered, yes.
So the intention of
Vanessa and I are between foot.
tomorrow's meeting, the one beforehand, the recreation meeting, we'll have a horseshoe like this also, just bigger, so that we can be more inclusive.
Can we
If
square it in?
anybody wants to.
We can
Square it in if we'd
We're
like.
gonna need to with, I mean,
You may have some people's backspace. I mean, we'll have enough for
That's
20
okay.
people here, but it'll be a bigger horseshoe like
This is
this.
fine. Yeah.
With enough room for us to have a conversation when we're sitting across from each other.
I just wanna make sure it's conversational, we're gonna have everyone.
Does CDD have placards or?
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they have individual name tags.
Yeah, they have made it.
So we'll be spreading you guys out, and then they'll be peppering them in between you guys.
And Steve, we're going to have, we will be recording the meeting in addition to that?
We're gonna have this, we're leaving this all up
Okay.
and ready to go. They'll have theirs on the other stuff.
Everything was good except the agenda part.
Yeah, so the only thing that I would say that we should just review for the future is exactly what we originally asked for back in April, not happened. We are an agenda item on the CDD's agenda. And so, which I get that there were some problems with the scheduling,
Yeah.
but just moving
I
forward.
was told by their rep we were not supposed to be, and I told Gary if it was ever to have another joint meeting, that you need to work it out with their president, or Gary needs to work it out with Steve. Because I'm not
That's-
going through this again.
Okay.
Yeah, you need a separate day that they're not having their meeting. They can hold another meeting with us.
It just has to be noticed.
It has to be
That's all.
publicly.
That's
the-
all.
yeah, the
That's all it
reason-
is.
The reason why this date was chosen, it was the one day that they were already meeting, and we had at least 3 board members,
We could be there.
ideally 4 board members that would be able to attend. That is, and it was the one date that we were able to come. We actually the first one was supposed to be the 15th of July, but we weren't able to come up together with that, or the 16th. So then we came up with this date.
Sure.
So
And
it
originally,
was the one.
when we started this too, I did not want it on their meeting date or our meeting date for this very reason, so it couldn't be enveloped into either. And it got bumped to their date, and I don't know if that was confusion on their end or what. I'm not gonna,
Well, it just seems like we can accommodate a lot easier than they can, the 5 of them.
well, no,
Unless,
that's why originally I didn't want it on a day. We
I
had a
mean,
meeting.
you know,
you
and
wanted
what
independent.
irks me is, we're volunteers.
So,
We don't get paid.
They don't get paid that much.
They get paid.
They don't get paid that much.
I don't care what it is, they get paid. And
So
they,
what's
and they
your-
get paid by us,
So what
the
irks you?
homeowners, and if they should put time aside, if they have to work with us,
They are
work
putting-
with us.
They were very gracious.
Yeah, for 30
They
minutes,
had their
we'll be
opinion.
doodah.
They said if we need to be an hour and a half before they start their meeting, they all 5 agreed to be an hour and a half, and please quit rolling your eyes, Dave. This is why we have a speaker on collaboration, so that everyone can be big. voice
Collaboration, that's great for me to listen to.
involved. I'm sorry, David,
collaboration.
if that's a problem with you, but that's why we have.
All
It's
right,
a goal
guys.
area, and you can't get there unless you at
You
least
can't
give
get
it
there
a
unless you
shot.
work
so.
together. And Dave,
Hey, Steve, we've been doing this for
arguing
9
to be
years,
a
with
jerk is
different
not gonna
boards
help
there,
anybody.
nothing gets accomplished.
Okay.
Nothing,
Try again.
nothing gets accomplished because you're trying to be, you're going in with that attitude. Just open your mind for one day, that's all I'm saying, one day.
Okay.
Eric, I do have one more
Yep, go
item
for it.
real quick. I wanted to give you a quick update on the campus street roofing. There were some emails going back and forth.
Yep.
We had the hopes of completing everything before school started, but we had a little bit of a delay while we were looking at the engineering to define what the costs were going to be for the chimneys. And we came up with a solution to avoid an additional $8,000 charge per chimney. But with that, it caused us to move back the time frame. So we're looking at starting Mulberry in September. And there's going to be sheriffs hired to help control traffic through Mulberry only during the times when the crane has to swing or when things are where you need to make sure no one's on the road. We will not be doing anything on Campus Street that will close down the road during school hours. It's not going to stop traffic. There won't be any crane swinging during that time frame either. So what we're looking for is possibly January, but we will be meeting Wednesday morning with Michael, the new principal.
Michael
Malone, the new principal at the school, and we'll talk to him about his other concerns, because I know one of his concerns were closing the road, and that's never been the intention to close the road. So we'll talk to him a little bit more about what his other concerns are, and then we'll work through the logistics and the details. Our biggest concern, we want to make sure that with the county building code is changing July of this year, how's that going to affect, and group believes that doing it on existing permits based on original building code can be extended. It's just a matter of the time frame. Is January going to work, or can it be pushed? If we have to push it back even later, can we push it back a little bit later?
I mean, good. I mean, it's good that we're not blocking the road, and I think we just have to get that information out, because obviously it came up and we heard about it from several different sources, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I know I heard about it, and I'm sure you did. And you passed it on. So I appreciate that. I think the one thing I would do, though, talking to the construction engineer, whoever you're doing it, is to define, when you talk about cranes, where they're going, where they're staying, and that kind of stuff, and make defining that kind of stuff and putting some things in contract that kind of define those things. Because if they're left out of the contract, then you're going to it's going to be ambiguous, and you're going to have issues.
You're talking about man lifts?
So I think that you probably have to really look at that to define it with the construction engineer, make sure that,
In addition to the areas that will actually be blocked off, because I know they're going to lose parking on Campus Street for a period of time.
Right.
Where on Mulberry Street, so actually delineate those however you.
Yeah, and they're going to have the logistical meetings. They're going to make sure that everything's communicated to the homeowners, and then we'll do the Friday flashes and the direct emails and everything that we need to do to get input. Will be in the newspaper. We'll have everything that we need to get the information out. But that's a great point. We have an owner's rep that we're going to be working with to make sure that we have the right things in the contract.
And also our expectation. I think we have to relay our expectations to whoever is our owner's rep, because we're talking about, again, these things we're talking about dumpsters. There's going to be dumpsters. Where are the dumpsters going?
Right.
How are they labeled? How are they picked up? When are they picked up? And if we don't have somebody go through that now and kind of set our expectations, if this was sitting at Walt Disney World, if this was sitting at a resort somewhere, they would have those expectations right when they laid out the contract. Because, by the way, this contract might cost more based on our expectations.
Yep.
Because we may say we want X, Y, and Z, we want this kind of thing. Driving from this road and not driving from that road, and only for these hours. And it might cost us more, but you might want to.
Who's paying for the deputies?
Through the service areas.
Service areas paying for
Through
that?
part of the budget that they have.
Are these man lifts, or is it an actual crane?
I don't know all the information.
I mean, these are roofers that are doing this, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine they're
this
probably.
was a
they're
project that I haven't been project lead on.
I think they're probably the man lifts.
Right.
You know, those big things they have downtown that Lexington uses?
Well, they need to, it's to bring the big piles of roof onto the top.
Yeah.
Well, that's done by the actual, whoever's delivering the shingles.
Correct, which is sometimes.
And they're there, and they.
Well, we are going to have a logistical meeting, though. That's a great point.
These are great questions to have.
Steve,
Let's hope somebody has the answer, and say,
Steve,
listen, our expectations of this road and everything.
The only other concern that I have with regards to Mulberry and that whole area, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Parking before school and after school on Longmeadow, along the park there, that whole area is all flooded with parents who park their car there, and then they walk their kids over, and then they walk back. So you have both sides of Longmeadow that are going to be piled with cars. You also have all of Mulberry, and you have Greenbrier. All of those are all going to be, they are prime drop-off and pick-up parking locations for teachers, for students, for you name it. That's those are the main areas. So my concern is, even if we're doing roofing on Mulberry Street, that's still going to impede traffic. for those particular parents and staff that park over there.
Right.
And those houses on Longmeadow are not going to be happy.
Right.
So even though we're not impacting that directly, we will be impacting that indirectly. So I think that's just something that that you need to be aware of.
Sure.
The traffic flow, that is all part of.
And that's what, about a half an hour before school starts and half an hour for pickup.
Yeah,
at least.
and then anytime, and then you have lunch hours, and then you have any field trips. Those are all where the parents park.
Right. Okay.
So just as a heads up.
Well, if Adam was here, he'd tell you that at Target. You have to watch the so it doesn't have to be right there.
And then
See, when you address that principle, can you also mention if he's receptive to redesign these fields?
that's not his call right now.
Yeah, I think it's all has to do with if there's going to be expansion and what
Yeah.
that expansion is going to look like. He is receptive to talking to us about possible use of the tennis courts and other things. So
The school is receptive in general to trying to be a partner in that.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
we've had a
Well, we're improving their stuff. It's a question of access and all
Right,
of other
yeah.
things. And there's some bigger issues, like we need to be talking about the gym
Mhm.
and a bunch of other stuff. So I think we need a discussion on the facility use agreement probably. Or
And then-
I told Jay we haven't set something. He said anytime. We should know.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I want to make sure tonight that we talk about is that the sign that we got the email on for the signage of the Civic Corridor
What are we
sign,
talking- what- I
the
didn't
address.
get that.
right.
So
Yeah,
if you,
put a sign.
before, I want to make sure before we move on to
Yeah.
that though, that if there's any more discussion.
What is
on-
that?
on-
Right. It was more informational purposes for you guys as an FYI. I just got the email today.
Floyd
from-
sent it to me, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Yesterday.
Jim Parker from TCC, all I wanted to improve was a sign that says Civic Corridor
Just the address.
313 through 315 Campbell Street.
They have an application in to do a sign, I think some sort of monument sign where they can change out wording on it.
The CDD?
The CDD.
If
and
we
they-
have one?
Well,
They
and
wanted to
it's
put
outside the
stuff-
library. Part of what they were asking is to allow different addresses on there for different locations, so dog park, golf course property, those things.
Why don't they wait till they figure out what's going on?
Well, I think what happened was the application came back from TCC saying, this is what we're recommending. So what Floyd's asked for is that tomorrow night during their meeting, that Jim talk about this.
Where's it gonna
So, from the library, and I don't know exactly where in front of the library. I asked for more information, because what I shared with you, he specifically said in the email to everyone, Steve will share with the CROA board. So I wanted to pass the information on to you so that you saw
Because I
it.
might not be here tomorrow, I would say
Well, that's-
the whole traffic thing might change. The whole entire front area might change depending on what's being built,
Sure,
depending on what the county
right.
wants to do. I just think it's completely premature.
Right.
Anyway, before we build it.
I think they're just wanting, they need to put an address sign up
Something,
there is what the
right.
challenge is for the CCDD, maintenance
Yeah,
facility.
for their
Yeah,
new
they have,
building.
yeah.
It'll
For
be
the
there
trucks
at
to be
their
able to
building,
find where they're going, because if you just say library, they don't always get it.
The way that I read the memo is that TCC came back with the standard, it's a sign, you can have the address on it, but nothing else.
Right.
And I know there was a question on putting other things. I personally have a concern with even stating what's back there.
Right.
We don't need anybody else to know that there's a dog park
I
back
don't want
there.
anyone to know that there's a dog park back there, to be honest.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so. we'll have-
That's
we'll have-
we don't even know what's going on.
Right, so, yeah, we don't even-
I know there's a dog park.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
have
but
I signed a bunch of stuff.
You've invested money into a dog park.
Yeah,
already.
But-
so I think,
Maybe we have pools and they can't use them, we just have to signage it. I don't know.
We don't have points, we don't have directional signage to anything that is CROA related.
It's a CROA asset.
Right. When we have hotels.
So, but I think if anything, this is just, we'll figure.
It's just an
it's
FYI
just
for right
an
now.
FYI, I'll figure it out.
You
So,
can stay for the meeting.
I don't think that it's going to be approved anyways.
any,
So it's kind of a non-issue.
Okay.
anything else for the good of the order?
Yes, just ask me when
Hey,
it's
Jack,
hospital tomorrow night.
you taking your map out?
So am I
The topo map?
Chick-fil-A coming, or is it? It may make a difference how
I
fast
actually
go.
had a six-course dinner until the dinner got screwed up and I had to
No,
cancel,
really?
so, yeah.
6 courses?
Yeah,
Yeah,
six
how much of
courses.
with a topo map?
What?
Topo map.
The what?
Debbie just got finished saying how she explained the map to everyone. Every single time she came in. I know, explain the map to
Well,
everyone.
Dave just asked me how we doing with that. and that's one of the
Right, how we
future
doing?
agenda items.
It is on
It's on the agenda here.
I
Well,
keep
what's
running
going on
into
with
it all the time because it's still there.
We have a.
Do you have a
there's
chainsaw? We can get it
class
out of here
that
real
wants to
quick.
Take that and update it for us.
Well, I missed what you just said. What was that?
I
Diana?
had a teacher ask me about it. And I said, well, the plan is to take it out of here. And my response to her, her response was, well, why don't we just update it and keep it? I have a class of kids that are learning CAD design who would like that we could approach to update it. So it's nothing for sure, but I wanted to get the temperature of the board if it came to the agenda, whether
It
we're
still has to do with
interested in
where we wanna put it.
updating or moving it.
So there was a
It's a
original.
giant map out
Oh,
there.
let's move it.
There was a previous proposal by me that one of the things that we were going to consider doing was removing the physical map and replacing it with a virtual map with a screen mounted on the wall.
By the physical map, you're meaning the big old thing
big
that's in the middle of the
building.
floor.
Yeah,
the gigantic
Okay, got it. I just want to make sure.
entire alley.
We would get rid of it.
Projection.
And so, you can buy a screen cheap. But the advantage of having a screen would not only be from, you could have the map on there, but we would also be able to sell advertising space on it.
And we could also keep it updated all the time.
Exactly. So, it's something that's on there. I know Steve, it's one of those things that's on the list. But if you look at like the work plan and stuff like that with, we just kind of got public stuff out the door. CDD fortunately has jumped on board a little bit more with public stuff than quite honestly than I think anyone was expecting. So which is a good thing, so that we can get them up to speed a little bit more on that, as well as with getting Rec Pro out the door as well. We're trying to figure that out. I would much rather see the map replaced with something else.
Second.
And so,
Third.
I mean, I think it makes sense.
It takes up some.
Got a chainsaw?
It's
Let's cut it
awfully
up.
big.
The kids climb in there, we're pulling out there all the time.
Diane, if you could send me, if you have any contact information, I
The
could.
kids will never be a full.
Well, they may
the problem
want
is
it.
They'll never afford it.
It's too expensive, but they may want to use it just as a project.
Absolutely.
Just a donation to them.
They probably want big.
No, I'm just saying, we need to figure out a place to store.
Could be used as
even
a
even
visual.
if places in something else. At the end of the day, we still need to figure out a place to store it. Right?
Well, that's what Steve said, give him the contact information.
They
and
can
maybe
use it as a teaching tool.
In somebody's classroom at a school here, they have no room. for that.
Just let me see. Let me just try. Don't poo-poo until I try. Let me at least ask.
Even if they want
Guys,
the components of
Leonard
it,
has
if
a
you
comment.
something.
Is there a way you could lucite it, and then you could stand it up and hang it on a wall somewhere? I don't know.
It's ridiculously heavy is the problem.
I don't know what kind of base it's sitting on, but I'm talking about putting, this much lucite on the top of it, and
Yeah.
Just
You
top.
wouldn't be able to put it on the wall.
Yeah, it was under, it'd be a lot more money, it's worth doing.
Oh, I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't know how people
That
feel about
wall
it.
is just.
I don't have any attachments of myself.
You know what it is? They came and changed the light bulbs.
I have a quick
It's
question.
in the way.
I have a quick question for you.
Mr. President.
Actually, I've got kind of a question for both of you. With regards to our joint meeting tomorrow and the topics, specifically the public stuff, and I'm assuming you're going to talk about seller services and things like that through the app. Who is actually, because obviously Gary, or you said Gary is going to run the meeting, but we have to have somebody that actually addresses those specific topics.
I have.
How do you have that?
I have some slides that I'll print out.
You're gonna do
I won't
that,
put it
okay.
on a PowerPoint, but I did it on PowerPoint. I'll just print them out and then have copies for everybody.
Okay.
It just kind of talks about how we launched it, what we're doing with it, what the numbers look like right now, and then what they're using. It's just like 4
minutes ago, because we have 5 minutes of topic. So you have 1 minute to answer.
I can make it really short. I mean, it's just to kind of share what
I was just wondering
because
who is actually
Rosemary,
going to be doing that. So,
we actually
okay.
reached out to Rosemary, and she is now extending timelines because timelines originally in the workflow they're what we set them as, and they may not be realistic to what they have, so they can push them out. And then we talked to her a little bit about our procedures for commenting whenever we change a status. So she's starting to do more. Kind of share a little bit about the success of. I think we're at 648 downloads.
How many are CDDs? Oh, sorry, I meant the things posted. Are a majority of them? It seems like a lot of them are CDDs. So that would be
a lot
some
of
good information. to have.
When I have the metrics, the graphs that it gives you, and I just made that a slide just so they can see what information is available.
Okay, great.
And then for your board report, which looks very good, I might add.
Thank you, Steve.
Not that I've pat ourselves on the back, but it looks very good. You're going to see those will be in there every month. You'll see those reports, number of open, number of closed, those types of
Great,
things.
thank you.
Yep.
Steve, when we gonna start with the budget?
Budget is gonna, we started already have asked Rachel to kind of take a look at some of the worksheets, and internally we're putting some stuff together. We do the public workshop meeting in October for the budget. Uh-huh. Yeah, and then you vote in November.
How are we doing on our not kids night out, our summer break out?
We're doing very well.
Helicopter came.
Oh, I
Yeah,
missed
had a
it.
helicopter today, and
That was pretty cool.
that'll be in your report also. Yep.
Great, excellent.
It looked like there was a ton of kids.
We have around 50, I think, this week.
That's a big group.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right.
I gave everybody a question and answer thing. If you
Jeff.
don't want to do this now, I'll send you the answers.
Send me the answer.
Just testing your knowledge.
Yeah.
Please see.
Sure, Finley?
You have to, yeah.
Oh,
You
we've
have
already-
you are off the board.
I'll do it
if
and bring
you
it
score.
tomorrow, Jack.
That's fine. I'll send you an email tonight with the answers.
No, you can send, you can give it to me tomorrow.
$10.
Rachel, it's very nice meeting you. Welcome again.
Thank you, it was very interesting.
It's always interesting.
Allie,
Listen to that laugh. It was interesting.
Tomorrow will be even better if you're here for that.
I don't know. I remember the second line. That doesn't make sense. What's he talking
All right,
about?
we're all going to.
But I've had a lot of emails from the last.
I'll buy.
First round of sangria.
No, actually, I told you about this.
And I don't want to be a jerk.
I told Tapper.
I don't care about that.
I just want to.
I just want them to give us, they
I like
keep
their,
themselves.
I like their white sangria with the champagne. The sangria de cava.
Because they rush it.
If this is some memorial that